Welcome to Rise, New Jersey's ultimate nightlife destination. It's the fall of 2009. Please bring your attention to center stage.
Party people!
Because it's time for tonight's main event. In the world of nightlife, music makes the difference in the way you start the day.
The finest ingredients are right in the mix.
Somebody say, oh yeah! Oh yeah!
Don't believe the hype is a sequel. Search the search, where is the justice? Couldn't find, so in God I trust this mind too. So it's strong and fruitful, and what I am, black and is beautiful. Not political, but aware. Power low with a powerful stare. Never bow down to a mortal man. Here I stand in my own command. Not a follower, not a leader. And exceed as sharp as a cleaver. Some are sinners, some are praisers. Me, Turbo B, heavenly hell raiser. Two from a kid make some folks stagger. Straight to the heart like a 12-inch dagger. Motley, way of the world, gaze upon the black pearl. Absorb the knowledge I speak. Don't believe the hype is a sequel. Don't believe the hype is a sequel. This one's real, so believe the hype. Don't believe the hype is a sequel.
And now, it's showtime.
Yo, what is up, party people? Welcome to another evening. Sorry we're a few minutes late, had a little technical difficulties. My computer decided to restart in the middle of getting everything started. But guys, welcome to part 2 to an amazing series. Last week you guys tuned into part 1, which was filled with history and tons of information. So I hope you guys are ready for part 2 tonight. But just to let you guys know before we get things started, welcome to the new loft where I'll be live streaming very, very soon to all you guys out there, because I know you guys have been getting a little anxious and a little itchy as to when I'm going to be coming back on. But if you guys haven't checked out my page, I made a very special announcement that we have, I'll be able to stream live right into your homes privately. And also for all my club owners and bar owners out there, if I can't make it out to you, I'm able to do that virtually all through live stream. So big ups to Anthony Vitale and Mike Gentili, my family at the Function House, for putting together a live stream. I'm really excited to get behind this product and to get behind the vision and the mission to be able to provide all you guys a service. Because, since we're unable to get to the clubs, might as well bring the club to you. And if you want any more information, hit me up. I'm already getting a lot of questions on bookings when it comes to how I could spin live into your home or bar or restaurant. But check out Live Spin on Facebook and also on Instagram, because we're going to be launching very, very soon. But to reserve your date, hit me up. But without further ado, we have so much to talk about tonight. So last time we left things off with heading into what we're doing tonight. And tonight specifically, we're going to be talking about the beginnings of something that I'm really passionate about, because this is when I actually started getting involved and started becoming a patron of these two very special places, Temptations and Soundgarden. So I'm really, really excited to get to hear a little bit more history on this part. So what I'm going to do right now is let's bring Eugene on. Yo, Eugene! What is going on, my man? Wait, hold on. We got to get the round of applause. Yeah! Wait, I have another one. Ready?
Good.
No, not that one.
Oh,
I hit the wrong button. Oh my God, I totally boffed that one, but who cares? This is live television.
I was gonna do my own radio golf clap.
Oh, were you? What's up, brother?
How are you, pal?
Oh
What's
man,
going on?
doing fantastic. How are you?
Good.
Dude, my brother, I don't know about you, but I got so much amazing feedback from last week's show. I mean, everybody was just going nuts about what you were talking about last week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I got a chance to look at the whole interview on YouTube,
Yeah.
and I got to make one correction for anyone out there that's a historic buff about New Jersey nightlife. We were talking about Central Jersey,
Yes.
and we were talking about Club Abyss and Hunka Bunker.
Uh-huh.
Well, I said Hunka Bunker was Close Encounters many years ago in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Close Encounters was um, Deco Lounge.
Oh, really?
Hunka Bunker on Journey Mill Road was a place called Modern Times.
Modern.
So if anyone that was listening that's old like I am, I just corrected myself.
All good. Well, thank you for the correction. I'm sure everybody appreciates that for sure.
Yeah, I just don't want anybody to walk away from this going, that guy don't know what the hell he's talking about.
You know what, Eugene? I highly doubt anybody would ever think that of you.
Oh, I'm sure there's some.
Well, whoever it is, they're bumps.
Yeah, whatever.
So how you feeling from last week? You think you got?
Good, man.
I think one thing that I definitely discovered about last week is we're going to have to add part 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and infinity beyond. What do you think?
I don't know. Listen, you know what? They're really, really, like when you first called me to do this, and we talked about all of the information stored here. It's a long time. 45 years is a long time.
It's a long time, for sure.
And it's just so much has happened, and I just want to reiterate, I'm doing this to enthuse people about the history of nightlife. It's more about that than it's about me. I hope everybody understands that, because I saw all this happen, and it was really, really incredible. From the age of 17 on, I and like I said to you in the last interview, I came on the scene when the tidal wave hit the shore, and that was when the baby boomers turned 18, and that was in 75, 76, 77, 78. That's why I shared that era with you with the soap factory and stuff. But this is just, when it comes to New Jersey and Long Island, New York, Brooklyn, the five boroughs, nightlife on this level was an every week thing for everybody. And there are a lot of moving parts that take place that go on behind the scenes, and that, is every bit of fun and every bit of intense and every bit of important. And I just feel that everyone that dials into this, whether they're listening live or they're going to catch this later on at another time, there's some real juice here. There's some stuff that people want to know. We had artists that performed, that were on the radio, that went on to become big time. a lot of people that are into the spinners and stuff, and we had a lot of DJs over the years, and I mean, I'm not here to talk about the problems that we have with employees and all the the fun we have with that. Um, this is more the culture, and so I'm ready.
Yeah, your
another
phone's blowing up
Chillin.
over there. Your phone's blowing
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
My phone's blowing up right now.
yeah. I gotta. So,
Who's checking in with you right now?
DJ Surge, Ray Rossi, Otto D, um,
Otto.
Will Barone.
Nice.
People trying to figure out how to log on. I'm trying to. I got to sit here and tell Otto like where to go because
Yo,
sometimes.
Otto, come on, man, get with the times. While you're doing that, we have a lot of people that are logged on right now. We got DJ Nico that's on right now. We got Dave Mondo. What's up, Mr. Mondo?
Dave,
How are you, sir?
I love Dave. I love Nico.
Yeah, we got Patricia Marshall on. We got a bunch of people that are logged on to Twitch right now. So
Awesome.
fun-filled cast of all stars tonight for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? What was really cool when I posted tonight's um, interview on my page, Dave German
Oh wow!
uh, uh, chimed in, and we got to get somebody to get him to come on here
Yeah,
because he was
absolutely.
like, yeah, he's good man. He was a major record label guy, and I was just chatting back and forth with him with Jeff Capel and DJ Joey Bats.
Whoa,
Yeah,
that's the man right there.
yeah.
Well, you had a
So
chance to work with so many people, so many DJs that we're going to get into tonight. But I mean, I guess. Hey, oh wait, Jersey Joel is in the house.
Jersey Joel is on. Yep.
Yo, Jersey Joel. Oh, that guy.
I'm gonna since Joel is on. Could I tell you a quick thing about Joel?
Absolutely.
When I bought Temptations in 1983,
Uh huh.
Joel was already working there.
Was he as a
Yeah,
bartender, probably right?
as
Or
a bartender. And like I don't know, it's too long to get into how that happened because that's that's more of that's more of a business owner's story.
Mhm.
But Joel has Joel is like a Joel is Seaside Heights,
Amen.
literally.
Yeah.
And you know what? When I took over the club, and it was in June. It was 2 weeks after Memorial Day weekend. It was kind of a hostile situation the way this deal went down. And I was walked into a room to meet the existing staff at Temptations,
Hmm.
and Joel was one of maybe 4 or 5 people that I held on to.
Oh wow. Well, I'm
And
sure when you're
and
taking over a new club, you have to create the whole new culture, and you just got to keep
yeah,
core four or core five people.
yeah, like Joel and God rest his soul, Sal Puma, who
Us.
was who was a very dear friend to Joel. Um, but and Joel, Joel is Seaside Heights nightlife, and I had the pleasure of having working with me throughout the whole time. And he worked at various other places. He worked for Joey um, at the Surf Club. He worked for the people that own Masquerade, aka Club Excess,
Hmm.
Mr. Hips, all those places, and he's down there now still. Joel's got to be in his early 60s, and he is he is one of the main people behind a place called Bum Rogers in Seaside Park.
Yes.
So Joel is still, and Joel's great. And when I passed the baton to the Cropperata family and sold Temptations in '98, uh, Joel Joel came with the building.
That's right.
I mean, he already had a relationship with the family there that came in, but he came with the building, and he took over.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear Joel talking about the Temptations and stuff like that, Joel was very, very instrumental in a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. You know,
Uh,
when I think
so,
of the culture, the vibe, the
cheers, Joe.
atmosphere, um, everybody thinks of Jersey Joel, especially his epic "Get on the Bar," telling Denny one more song,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
getting everybody riled up. So
Listen. When I listen, after I after I sold, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's okay.
yeah,
After I sold and I went down there, I couldn't go there for like a year or two. I was doing the marketing for it. I did all the radio, I did all the promotions and stuff like that. But when I went down there for the first time with now my wife Sandy, um, me and Sandy were dating at the time. We actually did a drive-by because we were going to Atlantic City, and when I pulled into the boulevard, I was getting claustrophobia. I'm like, oh my God. And I walked in to say hi to everybody. And then I remember we did, this was on 1035 KTU. We did a Sunday night broadcast on the holiday Sundays, because that's something that we used to do back in the 80s when I took over, in 86, 85, 86. And that place was mayhem. Mayhem.
yeah. What was it
And
like in
and
the early days of Temptations?
well, listen, it was early. It was 83. Um, we were still we still inherited the different music that was the transition. If you go back and remember what we talked about, because keep one thing in mind, at the same time for the first 18 years that I had Temptations, I had Chicago also.
Yeah, you're doing
And
double.
yeah, I was, my car drove up and down the parkway by itself.
Yeah.
Um, and I would burn through a car every year and a half. It's insane. Um, we were early on in 83, 84, 85. We were going through that transition from Disco 92 days with Paco and
Paco
all of that stuff.
Mendez.
Yeah. And so, early on in the early days of Temptations, we were still in that, Rock the Casbah, early Madonna. Um, and at that point in time, the music was in a transitional stage. The spinners that we had back then were incredible. First off, when I came down, I took people that were working for me up north to work, but I also held on to some of the talent that was in the room that was very, very good.
Yeah.
I brought down Louis Caperso, who was my original spinner at Chicago, who was one of the original spinners at the Soap Factory. I also brought down DJ Monty, not Bob Montesano, DJ Monty, not Tony Monty. Tony Monty's a different Monty. He's also a very dear friend of mine. And there were a couple of guys that were down there that were phenomenal. God rest his soul, Mike McKnight.
Hmm.
I don't know if you ever heard of him.
I know the name.
He was phenomenal. He passed away tragically, heart attack, I think like 3-4 years ago. And then one gentleman that I see on, maybe somebody could reach out to him now and get him on and say hi, was Hippolito Torales. He went under the name Hippie, DJ Hippie.
Nice.
And Hippie was a very talented producer. He comes from that little Louis Vega school.
Yeah, that old school house sound.
Right.
Yeah.
And then early on, Joe Batts.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Joey Batts was in there on Sunday night, early on. And then he was working on Sundays and on Mondays. Louis Caperso was in there on Fridays, and I had Hippie and Mike McKnight and early on another gentleman that was from that area was Ernie Lombardi.
Yeah, that's right.
Ernie and notice how I used their last names, because I don't know if anybody ever told you this. I said this a long time ago. unless it really rolls off your tongue well, I kind of like didn't like, all right, I'm DJ John, or I'm DJ Andrew, or I'm DJ Frank. Um, I remember telling Franco when I was getting ready to do the whole Hot 97 thing back in '86 at Chicago and at Temptations. I'm like, when I met Franco, a girl by the name of Kathy Drake introduced me to him, and he was DJ Franco. And I said to him, I'm like, listen, I go, um, when you start working here, you're not going to be DJ Franco anymore. And he looked at me like a dog whistle, going, huh? I'm like, your last name is Iamello, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you're Franco Iamello. He's like, I am? I'm like, yeah. And so I always, from way back when, I always, tried to encourage everybody to use their last name, you know. Like the DJ with the first name was such a dated thing from back then. And so, that's why when you hear me roll these names off, some of them, like DJ, like Ernie Lombardi, everyone knew him as DJ Ernie. I knew him as Ernie Lombardi, and he was a great guy. He was a great sound guy. He side worked with Mike Canaccio, my sound engineer. And, so a lot of these guys, if I mention their names and if you hear their last names for the first time, it's because at one time or another outside my orbit, people would just use their first name and they just didn't understand my logic behind that. So, like if you grew up in the '80s, you would be DJ Andrew.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Like I used to go by DJ A to Z,
Well, I remember that. Yeah,
and then I remember like everyone used to tell me, even my management at the time, they said you have to use your last name. It's just much more professional in dance music. It's your name, it's your surname. You have to use it. And
hundred
Dave
percent.
Mondo just even typed, the name is huge. You got to be yourself, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
got to be yourself.
So, yeah. So the story of the Spinners early on during the Temptation days, um, going back to Joel, and there was a bunch of hostile. Like I said, I guess it's a great way to start talking about Temptations with Joel coming up.
Hmm.
I walked into a very hostile situation. It's like I walked into a room. They had a staff meeting, and they're like, "We're going to introduce you now to the new owner of Temptations." And I walked into a room of 40 some odd people, bartenders, security guys, and stuff. And I'm like, hi. And they all looked at me like, because I was there checking the place out for a couple of months, And they're like, hey, I know you. You're from Chicago in Lodi. Hey, I know you. You used to work at the soap factory. I'm like, yeah. So that was a feat in itself. And I managed to keep holding other people. And again, props to Joel. Joel's a complete gentleman. Um, but as far as the spinners and stuff go and the music at that time, 83, 84, 85 were years where New York radio didn't have its niche.
Yeah, it didn't have an identity then.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you had new wave artists doing dance tracks. You had Rod Stewart doing a dance song. You had the Rolling Stones doing a dance song. You had David Bowie doing a dance track. It was kind of really weird. You had the Clash still coming out of the punk rock era. With Rock the Casbah and groups like Sparks, and it was a weird time where, from a programming perspective, you know, it was more of a challenge to spin back then for these guys.
Mhm.
Of course, there was you still had that deep underground scene that always that never left Newark. What was that club in Newark?
There was
Zanzibar.
Zanzibar, yeah.
Now, that's like that, that was like a BLS room kind of thing. And, the progression never quit there. If Zanzibar was still there today, Zanzibar would be playing the same, not the same songs, but the same vibe,
Same vibe, yeah, exactly. You took the
It
word.
was cool. It was cool. And you know what? Andy, a lot of the DJs that were working the circuit, whether they worked for me or worked at the surf club or some of the other clubs and stuff, some of these spinners, um, they also um, would go to Zanzibar for those sounds,
Hmm.
And I'm just thinking, I'm trying to remember some of the other spinners now. I know I'm missing some spinners here that came and worked down at Temptations that were. Oh, okay. So, I mean, well, this was a little later on when guys like Franco started uh, moving into the record business. We're moving ahead into the late '80s, early '90s. I had brought Stevie Zaccone down from Chicago, and another guy that worked down there who was a real dear friend of mine and everyone, um, Greg Padula.
Ha ha ha. Greg was the man. He was always
Greg was
good.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, and for those out there that don't know or do know, Greg, owned Diesel Groove Records.
yeah. All those great compilations later on.
Well, he did a couple, and you know, um, he also had one of the biggest classics of all time, Final Chapter.
Yeah, big
That was
record.
that was on his label.
That was Mike Macaluso, the forever known as the fist pump anthem forever. But you also had
Yep.
you had who else? Jared DeMeo spun down at Temps.
Jerry, yes, he did.
Johnny D, Stevie Zaccone,
John, yep.
Luca Perso.
Yeah, Louis was early on. Johnny D was, worked down there. He was a nice guy. He was from the Toms River Seaside area.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, when you first
Um,
took over Temptations and you had all these people looking at you like, who's this guy taking over? When you're taking over or starting something fresh and you need to bring new talent in, like, what are the things that you look for to help build that culture? Because, culture is king in any business. And what goes through your mind when you're trying to put a staff together of bartenders, of bar backs, of DJs? Like, is there a secret formula that you're looking to do, or is it more like an instinct that it's more the heartfelt kind of gut feeling like this guy works here? Like, how do you pick your team?
well, you know what? I had an advantage, just like Joey Barcelona had with the surf club. We had our place up north. So the culture was already pretty much set in place with Chicago,
Mhm.
just like Joey's in Clifton. Um, you know, these places were a mirror. So I mean, it wasn't too difficult to establish where we were going musically, and what we were about, because not only did we shift the culture from North Jersey to that spot, but so did the clientele. Yeah, we had an incredible advantage. I mean, just think about this, Andrew. Just think about spring break. Everyone that we know in New Jersey um, is going to Cancun, and you're going to Daddio or Cocobongo or something like
Goes,
that, and and all of a sudden, you got Denny Chetto spinning in one of those clubs during spring break, or Stevie Zaccone, or Franco Ayamello, or Joey Bats, people that are known up north. So where is everyone going? So that right there kind of like punctuates the culture. Again, if you're advertising that correctly, you know, And I did, and that's what I did. That was everything to me. The whole marketing. I mean, we had the product. We had the product in both spaces, but marketing it and the bridge from North Jersey to Seaside Heights was big. Um,
Yeah, huge, really big. So, like, I mean, when it comes to marketing, nobody does it better than you, in my honest opinion. So, in order to bridge that gap from North Jersey to South Jersey, like, did you have to make any pivots in your marketing campaigns, or did you have to have a different mindset when it came to marketing versus North to South, or did you want to keep it consistent because that's the vibe that you're trying to bring wherever you go?
I mean, I didn't use the same slogans. Um, we had our own identity. Temptations had its own identity, and keep one thing in mind too. You're on the Barrier Island. You're in Seaside Heights, and you know it's not just North Jersey. It's Westchester. It's Bronx. It's Queens. It's
That
Brooklyn. It's Staten Island. And you want to know something? You'll hear me say this a couple of times. It's Newark. Like Newark is like one of the five. Newark to me is the sixth borough of the metropolitan area.
yeah.
So just try to picture this. You know, again, we had that edge, but we also had that clientele going to Lodi as well. We had people coming from Staten Island and Brooklyn to Lodi. That was a very comfortable spot for people. Queens, Bronx, Westchester, especially Westchester. Westchester was 25 minutes away,
Yeah.
and so, but when you went to the Barrier Island, you're like you're on vacation. You feel like you're at a resort, for the lack of a better word, even though we know it as the Jersey Shore or down the shore, whatever, however people label that. What
Yeah.
was that? DTS. Yeah.
Yeah, DTS.
Yeah. So, but, you know, there's an intensity factor,
There is.
more so than you could ever imagine, because you're talking about different cultures jamming into 8,000 square feet. You know, if you think Newark gets along with Staten Island and Newark gets along with Brooklyn and Queens gets along with Staten Island, there's so much going on.
So much.
You have, and the only time I really ever brought any New York guys was when in 1986, 87, when the Hot 97 Saturday Night Dance Party started. We did the live broadcast and stuff, and that's when I brought in Scott Blackwell.
Mm.
And then, I had him do some guest spots because Franco was the guy that was doing all the live broadcasts. And then I would bring in Mojo Nicosia and Glenn Fisher later on.
Mm.
But, we mainly had all Jersey guys,
Yeah.
back then.
But
So,
with all those boroughs, the six boroughs, so you say, coming into 8,000 square feet of just pure energy, I mean, that's really like, in my opinion, you put the staff together, you got the right atmosphere, you got the right marketing, and then you just have this melting pot because something just happens to you when you cross over that bridge to head down south into that
well,
boulevard.
let me ask you a question. Which bridge? Is it the Seaside Bridge or the Raritan Bridge?
I mean, actually, for me, it was phases because as soon as I went over the Raritan Bridge,
Yeah, definitely.
but then going over Seaside, that was when the butterflies started kicking in. Because I knew I was like, okay, we're getting closer.
Andrew, I always said the minute you cross that Raritan Bridge, it's like the whole mindset changes.
Yeah, what did they call North Shore Bennies?
Oh yeah, pennies.
The Bennies.
Hey, listen, and listen. You want to know something? With all respect to everyone that's tuned in here right now from South Jersey, I can relate
Hmm.
because in the 18 years stint that I had Temptations, I must have done. Jesus Christ, I need my Google guy. Where's Ace?
Ace got to be in here somewhere. I'm actually, you know what? I should text him right now.
Yeah, I had to do at least 5 renovations, and I did them during the winter months. You know, when it was bitter cold, and the reason why I'm saying that is because you come to appreciate how people that live in Toms River and in Lavallette and Ortley Beach and Seaside Park and Seaside and Point Pleasant, that whole area, you come to appreciate how they get pissed off because once May hits, their space is invaded. They can't get a parking space. There's people driving all over the place, screaming at people, horns blocking, and when I was doing the renovations, I went and did most of them myself. I mean, yeah, I might have had a carpenter or electrician, but I did a lot of work myself because I enjoyed doing that. It was a nice escape for me, and I did all the designing myself too.
Hmm?
But I'd be able to drive up 37 to go to a hardware store or a lumber store, or drive up to Point Pleasant to Woodhaven Lumber to pick up lumber and stuff like that. I even went years ago. I went and even I went and bought a pickup truck. So I had a pickup truck for my renovation, so I could pick up my own stuff just to get out of the club for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And so. But yeah, I could appreciate it because when April started, people started coming down there to open up their houses and stuff like that. You started seeing the influx from everywhere. Again, from Brooklyn, from Staten Island, North Jersey, Newark, Westchester, whatever, and even till look, yesterday. I mean, I'm blessed to have a nephew, um, and he's down in Point Pleasant, and his business is in its 24th year. It's called Joe Leone's. It's a
Yes.
specialty store. Yeah. And I've been down there with him all summer. In fact, I'm going to go down on Monday because to help him out for the holiday. And I go down there for Christmas. And many years ago, when he was like 25 years ago, and I think I told you when I had a couple of different paths to take. It was going to be either the food business, the radio business, or the nightlife business. I had learned how to make mozzarella, and I taught my nephew, and he's down there. And in fact, yesterday morning, me and Joey went into the store and we banged out like 300 pounds, like this. Boom.
What's the
Yeah.
secret to making good mozzarella? Like, what's the
Uh,
are you allowed
you,
to
you,
disclose that type of information?
you know what? You got to have your hands in it. You got to have it's very hard to articulate.
You know what? Yeah, you have to make me some now.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want, you could check in with my wife, go on her page.
Uh-huh.
All right. I'm making it for Thanksgiving. Sandy said to me 2 years ago, it's like, huge. Could we make mozzarella for my friends?
Yeah.
They want, because every time I make it, I'll make extra, and my wife will bring it to other people's homes, and I'll be like, Jesus, could you make that for me for the holidays? So Sandy and Connor and Vincy and Alexa, like, Dad, you got to make this for your friends.
Uh-huh.
So my wife's an entrepreneur, and she's like, huge. Let's do this.
Why
So
not?
last winter,
Really make
I
a lot
made
of
it.
people happy.
Oh yeah. So we're doing it. We're doing it for Thanksgiving for next week. I'm gonna make it down there and bring it up north. Connor's gonna deliver it with Vincy, and so if you want, check in with Sandy and put your order in.
Fantastic. Hey, just want to let you know, we have the fact checker in the house. Ace checked in. He is here.
There he is.
So, yo, what's up, Ace? What's going on,
Hey,
brother?
buddy. I don't know. Was he on last time? He is. He is a 1 South Main Street walking Google.
That he is. That he
That's all
is.
I can say. And he was with me for 23 years. I mean, and he just paid attention to everything.
Yeah. Ace is the most articulate, most detailed person that I know, and I
Yeah.
love him for it because nothing gets by him. He's so sharp. He's been such a great friend to me over the years, and he's my music guru, man. He knows so much about everything that anytime I have a question, I always hit Ace up. So, what's up, Ace?
Listen, you know what? It's so funny. I think I said this the last time with Dave Mendez.
Uh-huh.
And like guys like Stevie Zaccone, it's like when we talked about music, if Stevie said to me, "Hey, Huge, I got this new record. I went to Mondo Music to pick up some music. Wait till you hear this song." If Ace was in the vicinity, he would sit there and say to Stevie,
I had that 2 months ago.
"What are you kidding me? I had that record freaking that came out 6 months ago. That's old."
Yeah.
And Stevie would look at him going, "Jesus Christ." And you want to know something? 11 out of 10 times, 11 out of 10, Ace was right.
Absolutely. So happy to have Ace on here. Actually, there's so many epic nights that I've had at Ace, at the bar, Soundgarden, Ace, Richie Vitale. Oh my God, those were the good days. Good days.
Elvis, Elvis.
Elvis. Oh man. Oh, what an all-star cast.
Oh
All-star.
yeah.
But so 18 years at Temptations. Is there anything that sticks out in your mind that is super memorable of that room when you were the captain of the ship?
It was look, the summers were great. I mean, you know, look, I said this before. People that are in the nightlife business and the restaurant business and the nightclub business, we have stomachs made out of cast iron because you deal with weather. You know, it can be challenging. It's not what it's all cranked up to be. It could be really really challenging. Um, and I mean, I don't want to sound like a downer here, but it wasn't always great. You had some things that kept people away from the shore. Like we had that one year that they were having a problem with the garbage and needles were pulling up on the shore. What year was that? Ace will remember. That's why I need you on here, Ace.
Wait,
I
what?
love you. Yeah, that you had there were needles washing up on the Jersey Shore, and it kind of scared the shit out of everybody, and it hurt business.
Did it?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Someone's got to, yeah, yeah,
So just
yeah.
a
I
whole roller
mean,
coaster, ups and downs.
yeah. I mean, but look, every year was great. I operated differently. Temptations was a different animal. I didn't. I guess because you come from North Jersey and you're doing business 12 months out of the year, and you're in season a strong 9 months, 9 to
9 months.
12 months.
Hmm?
You know, my foot was on the pedal. My tank was full. My foot was on the pedal. Um, Places at the Jersey Shore have a tendency of operating like they're a sausage stand on the boardwalk.
Like
And
Midway?
like, yeah,
Sorry.
and
I just got hungry thinking about it. Sausage stand.
yeah, yeah. Um, and look, I didn't operate like that. I didn't operate from a position of weakness. I didn't sit there and look at the local weather and go, okay, wow, it's going to be a good weekend because the weather's nice. You couldn't operate like that if you were inside my world and if you're inside my body because I plan stuff. You can't, when you want to bring a show, when you want to bring, and when you want to book a group like House of Pain, uh, Marshall Jefferson, tag team, all this stuff that I brought down to Temptations, you got to do that months in advance. And, and think about it. This is a short season. It's a 17-week season. So you got to plan that out. I can't sit there and put a deposit out for $3,000 and bring in House of Pain and fly them in from LA and call up the agent and go, listen, could I have my money back? It's going to rain this weekend. No, you got to go. And, that was one of the things that made Temptation special. the events were set. They were marketed in advance. You know, the whole idea was to inspire confidence and get people excited about what was to come, and I just kept coming at them.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't just sit by and wait for the weather. And then when we did have bad weather, it kind of worked to our favor, believe it or not. People would come out earlier. You know, we normally, like, in the mid to late '80s, it's like, if you went out early, you were kind of like coming from dinner. You were older. You know, you weren't cool if you didn't come out after 11:30, kind of
Huh.
thing.
Go figure.
And then it was like the trains let out, and everybody wants to come in. You had the VIP line, the general admission line, the stamp line coming back in, and yada yada yada. And I mean, you know, but the days that it rained, they were down, and when they were down, the pre gaming was less, and they came out earlier. So
Well, they're
so if I
they're jonesing to get out there. I mean, and you
yeah.
always had the formula to guarantee a good time. So did you always find it difficult to, since you booked everything early, to like forecast what was going to be the hit? Like, for example, you booked House of Pain, which I heard, and even in the comments, was probably one of the craziest nights ever down there. How far in advance did you have to book them? Was the song still hot? Did you get them before the song started to hit? Like, how do you figure that out, like that back then?
House of Pain specifically was booked in March
Wow.
for that summer, because if you look back and you Google, and Ace will tell you this, and Stevie Zacone will tell you this, and Franco, and any of the spinners that were in that era, and I think you got to remember this too. When House of Pain came out, everyone thought the group was black.
Yeah, he did. Till
They
the
sounded black. Yeah. And the promotion that Tommy Boy did was they came out with green albums with 10 inches, with the 12-inch. They
uh,
were green.
yeah, they were
I don't
green.
know if you remember that.
I do. I might have it back here somewhere. Like, if I look, I know it's back there somewhere.
And so actually, House of Pain debuted at Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
but I had them really early. All right. I mean, they didn't really peak until Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
And when I had them at Chicago, I forgot who was spinning. I don't know if it was Stevie Zacone or Franco. It had to be Stevie. It had to be Stevie and Franco, because Stevie was Franco's light man back then.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, these guys came out, and like I said, the promotion was done because they were Irish, and they released their song on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, they did. Great.
And yeah, and everyone thought that they were black because they sounded black, and it was hip hop and stuff. And I'll never forget when I had them at Chicago. They they came out, and they were smoking. Uh, they they thought it was perfectly okay to light up these freaking fat blunts in my office.
That's so funny. As you're saying that, Ace just totally put it in the comments. They
Oh
drank
yeah,
Jägermeister and smoked blunts.
yeah, yeah. Ace, you know what? You really should be interviewing Ace. I should just sit there and go, and be like Diamond and Silk, and go, yeah, mm-hmm, yeah, that's right, because he knows. But they were in the back, and like at the time, Dave Mendez was my head of security, and he would always be in the office when he knew showtime was ready. When we made sure we had people and the line was done in the club, we kind of get everybody in so we can get the show on by 1 o'clock.
Hmm.
And here's Big Dave in the office, and these guys are lighting up these freaking blunts, and Dave's looking at me like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing with this? And I'm like, So, like I said to the guys, and I'm like, excuse me, you can't really be doing that here. And they were like, oh, and you could tell they were rebels. They would, they were listening, but they didn't want to listen. And it was like, all right. Like, I didn't want to kill their vibe and the whole bit, but I'm like, listen, we can get in trouble for that here. We can't do that here. So,
Yeah.
so they respected me, and they put everything out. But and you could ask Dave, because at the time Ace was working behind the bar.
Yeah.
And by the way, you could ask Joel. I used to call Ace the octopus. Ace is the only guy. Everyone talks about who's the fastest bartender in the business. I'll put Ace up against anyone
Yeah.
and make you a great drink.
And make it great.
Uh,
And also wipe the bar clean, take someone's
yeah,
order, and make sure
yeah,
everything is perfect. Dude,
yeah.
Ace was.
And if you were a bar back or another bartender, he ran you right the hell over. He'd be like, "Get the hell out of the way!" And
So true, but that's hey when
but
he
and you
performs
want to
at
know
such a
something? You want to talk about a high level? Yeah, yeah. And you want to know something, Andrew? I had he needed like 3 registers. Every bartender had their own and if I remember this correctly, every bartender had their own register. So at the time, I wanted more bar space at bar number 1.
Mhm.
This is up in Chicago. So they came out with a register that could have 2 separate drawers. So every bartender still has their own register,
Uh-huh.
in essence. Ace wanted to kill me because the station that he worked, if I'm not mistaken, he had to share that register. I had to wind up moving him to the station that had its own register because he was gonna kill somebody,
Yeah.
or somebody was gonna kill him. But anyway, going back to House of Pain. So now to answer your question about knowing ahead of time, and I'll get into that with you with other groups as well. I already established a relationship with them. I knew they were going to go. I knew they were coming in big.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be the song of the summer. That was established to me in early March.
Mhm.
That song had legs. That was an anthem on the dance floor for like 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
right?
Even to this.
And so now I bring them the Temptations. So now they knew it was us, and we're down there, and some of the same people there. Big Dave is there. We got them in the back room and all of that. They lighten up their blunts again.
Oh man.
Now, wait a minute. So I got a little bit ahead of myself. Let me go back to Chicago. When they came on stage in Chicago, after Dave and I said you can't be smoking the blunts in here, they get up on stage and they opened up with Ace. Ask Ace what's the name of the song they opened up with. Oh God, something about shenanigans.
Yeah. There's a slight delay, so I'm sure he'll type it in just a few seconds.
Yeah. Anyway, they opened up with the song. What was it called? Anyway, regardless, they light up a joint on the stage.
Yeah.
Now, I always did the mix down behind the DJ booth.
Yeah, you did.
I had it was either a DAT tape or a CD or reel to reel, whatever it was. I'm behind the stage. It was either Stevie or Otto doing the lights. I'm not sure who was spinning that night. It's either Stevie or Franco. And of course, Dave was always by my side. He was like my personal freaking right rib. And all of a sudden, they light up the blunt on stage, and I'm like, "What the frick are you guys doing? I can get in trouble for this." And the guys turned around. I'm like, "Yo!" And it was loud, and they got on that sound system, and the place went off like you couldn't believe. So we had to get them we had to get them to put out the blunt. When the one singer, not the main singer, the other singer, when he heard his manager that was next to me going, no, you can't do this. He was telling that. He turned around, looked at him, and before he threw it out, he took one more hit of the blunt. It was the most hysterical thing ever. Yeah. So now
one crazy.
going on to the Temptations thing, when they were down at Temptations, it was insane. Again, you have to understand something. It's 2-3 months later. Now this song is in everyone's, it's on everyone's hard drive. Everyone's just losing it now with this song. And we had every bit of 1,100 people in the room. It was insane. And after they did the first song, boom, I forget, it was called something in
Boom.
Shenanigans.
Black Boom.
When they did Jump Around, the whole place was jumping up and down, like all at once. It was almost like, you ever see when you go to a Giant Stadium or MetLife and they do the wave?
Yeah.
Well, this wasn't a wave. This was like, and I owned the building down there the Temptations was in, and we had a wood roof. We had steel girders, but it was wood, and it was flexible. And I had 100 tons of air conditioning on that roof, and I'm sitting there. I'm behind the stage, putting on the show, and I'm looking at the roof, and the roof was actually suspending. It was moving like this. Then I was like, Jesus Christ, God help me.
Wow.
God help me, because Temptations originally was a furniture store.
A furniture store? You know what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
While you're talking about the beginnings of Temptations, one of the questions I was going to ask was, what was it before you took it? Or what was it before? A furniture
Well, before it was Temptations, it was a furniture store with a department store next to it. The building was 15,000 square feet, which, by the way, right now, the place that sits in there now is Hemingway's.
Hemingway's, yep.
It's huge. But, it was scary. I mean, the night was exciting. It was it was intense, beyond intense. But when the ceiling was moving, I'm like, Jesus Christ. So that was a nerve-wracking time with House of Pain. But as the years went on, you always saw. And to go back to your question on how I knew, listen, at Chicago, at Temptations, I was about the music. I was about the dance music and whatever the hits were going to be. Having great spinners and having some type of an ear. I was able to pick out some of the hits and express an interest in them, early. And when that took place, it was like, shit. Everyone's like, Jesus Christ, how did you get that? Well, because everyone that's in the business that booked entertainment knew that you had to do this a couple of months in advance, especially if they're from out of state.
Yeah.
Booking a freestyle show was a piece of cake because everyone was from the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But House of Pain, they were from L.A. Tag Team from I think they were from Florida. When I booked Turbo B with Snap, when he came out, that was another big one when I got the power.
That oh my God, like the intro that we played.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you got people like, again, I refer back to Dave and a couple of my security guys. Here's Turbo B at Chicago. I brought him back during the Soundgarden times too, and at the end of the I Got the Power song, he did like 3 songs. He did Oops Up, right?
Mm-hmm.
He did Believe the Hype was his follow-up
Mm-hmm.
to I Got the Power, and he would break a mic stand. He would take the mic and put it around his back and bend it over his shoulders.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, everyone was like, Eugene's gonna fucking lose it, and I didn't. I'm like, hey, if that's what makes you happy,
Yeah.
you
Whoever
know,
floats your
I'm gonna
boat,
get,
right?
yeah. So I'll never forget. And you could ask Stevie this because I remember telling him the story, and Ace knows it, and so does Dave. Those three were really honed in on me large. I'll never forget. Um, After the first time I had Turbo
Hmm.
with Penny, that was the girl that sang "I Got the
Yep.
Power," right?
Yep.
I walked outside, walked him back to the office, and this big guy. Again, Turbo was from Pittsburgh,
Big dude.
and yeah, big dude, great rapper, great voice, and a great drummer.
Oh, really?
And so we're walking out. I hit it off with him really good. And he looked at me. We're walking back towards the office, and I would have a spread of food out for everybody and stuff. And he said to me, he goes, "Yo, man, you're the first mother that didn't yell at me for breaking the mic stand behind my neck."
That's
I'm
great.
like, yeah. I'm like, Turbo, it's all right, man.
It's all
It's
good.
all good.
Yeah.
He goes, so you're saying when I come back, I could do that again? I'm like, yeah, it's all right.
And he's probably like, when can I come back?
Oh yeah, and you know what? If you look at, I mean, again, I don't have a record of everything, but he debuted by Chicago. There was a big argument between. Imagine this: a 6,800 square foot nightclub getting into a pissing match with the Palladium on who had Turbo B snap first. I'm like, come on with the shit, you
Yeah.
know.
Get over it.
Yeah, get over it is right. So they got all animated. They canceled the date, and then the fucking record label was like, "Screw you," and blah blah blah, whatever. They worked it out. Um, but yeah, I had Turbo a bunch of times. I brought him back for a bunch of retro nights and stuff like that we did back in the day as we progressed in the years. And and then when Rhythm as a Dancer came out, the girl Penny left the group. They had a new singer,
Yeah, Penny
and
Ford.
then yeah, and then Turbo moved to Florida. Um, But yeah, the one year we had him, it was. I'm trying to remember. Again, probably Ace would know. Um, we had. God, who was it? It was the year I think the Giants were in the playoffs, and I think they were going to the Super Bowl. And Turbo comes out. He walks into the office. Hey, what's going on? It became like he became the routine act. I must have had him like twice a year, maybe three times a year. Comes in with uh, his Pittsburgh Steeler jacket.
91, Ace said.
Okay, well, when we here we are. He knows he's in New York, New Jersey. All right. He walks up on stage when we introduced him with his Pittsburgh jacket on. He
Oh, my
turns
God.
around and he's flexing. And he's like giving everybody the finger. Oh, this great guy. Everyone said they had a hard time dealing with him. I loved him. We hit it off. I know the record label guys stretched him a lot and stuff like that. But I think the last time we had him was for one of the when Chicago, when Soundgarden turned into Rise, we did a big 30-something year reunion, and we brought him back up with the girl that sings Rhythm as a Dancer. But yeah,
So,
so that was a very definitive moment in Temptations for live shows. And then I'm trying to remember some of the other stuff that came down that way. Um, I think one of them was Tag Team when Whoop There It Is was a big record. Anything that was large during that whole span was in that room.
mhm.
But the ones that really like made the impact where everyone was with the oh wow factor had to be. I mean, and then like in the early, like, before the whole house music thing started, we had Marshall Jefferson, um, and when Rock Your Body, Gotta Have House Music, when that came in, That was a big show down at Temptations. We didn't have them up north in Chicago, but we had Marshall Jefferson with Move Your Body. That was huge. I don't know what year that was. Again, Ace will be able to tell you that.
Real big stuff. So you had, I mean, 18 years building. So why decide? Why did you decide to sell it?
Um,
Was it to focus more on the transition into Soundgarden? Was it just
no, because Soundgarden, um, no, Soundgarden was. I'll explain the transition behind that. But look, back in '96 or so, '95, '96, I had invested in some plans. Um, um, I see Mark the Antennas just pulled up on this page. Shout out to Mark.
Yo, what's up, Mark?
Mark's great. He's another part of the fabric down there and in North Jersey.
Yeah.
Big
Hey,
time.
Mark, thank you for sending me all those great memes on Instagram. Don't think that I'm not paying attention, Mark. So, yo, keep them coming, brother. I love it.
Mark, Jersey Joel, and Sal Puma. I think I had three of them behind one bar. Anyway, why did I sell? Back in '95, I had invested in plans to do a major renovation because it was time for a renovation. I owned the building, and I kind of got a little annoyed at the town because we did a great job there. The local politicians loved the way we operated. We had very little trouble there. Um, they really looked up to our operation. We handled a lot of our own problems. We didn't create a lot of problems. So I had owned the building, and my tenant next door that had this department store um, wind up moving out, and I couldn't rent the space. It was kind of like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what am I going to do here? So I wanted to expand the club,
Mm-hmm.
and I got turned down, and it kind of disturbed me that I got turned down by the planning board. And at that same time, um, I was also experiencing my separation um, that has started back in '93, '94, and my divorce kind of got final right about then. And my daughter at the time, Alexa, who was very, very dear to me, meant more to me than anything. Um, and for those 4 or 5 months out of the year prepping that room, kept me away from my daughter, and I couldn't deal with that, and I wasn't having it, and I kind of just like said, maybe it's time to go. And there was a good visionary down there um, that wanted to turn the boulevard into something like you see down in New Orleans, for the Mardi Gras. They wanted to, do cobblestone street and close down the whole thing. And that was the people that owned Club Excess. And I pretty much, handed them the baton, and I sold it. I'm like, here, I mean, Jesus Christ, the liquor license and the deal wasn't even freaking in place, and he already was ripping the place apart after the summer when I made the deal. That was the gentleman that I passed that on to, and and the goal there was to make that like a district similar to New Orleans, and that was that. So it was time for me to go. Things were getting really busy with the New York Minute that I had on the radio.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to sacrifice my daughter for nothing. There was just no way, because it's difficult. I had no time. Because you got to remember, I still have a nightclub up north, and I got this monster on the radio, and it was hard enough even when I let it go to be around my daughter. And so it was a priority move, and it was a great move, and I have no regrets. And that's the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, to
There are some there are a few other stories that you definitely want to hear from Temptations, and that's and I mean, God rest his soul, the Paco story.
what's that?
Well, in the late in the late '80s, early '90s, here we are. We're doing the Hot 97 Saturday Night Dance Party. We're not only in rotation and doing that during the summer, on Sundays um, of the big holidays, we would do the Saturday night dance party sometimes on Saturday, and
Uh-huh.
come right back the next night and do the Hot 97 Classic Showcase with Al Bandero.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And what was great about it is the idea behind it was back then when I did those events. Um, there was a satellite truck component that cost a ton of money to do the broadcast, because back then there was no ISDN line
And no,
technology.
everything was satellite.
Yeah, you couldn't hook up a phone line or anything like that. And so I worked really close with Hot, and they were like, "Hey," I'm like, "how about we broadcast this classic showcase?" And we did that on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the inspirations that started the classic nights. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people want to know where this thing grew. It's where it started and how it became what it became. But it was mirroring the radio station's programming, because they did the classic showcase on Sunday night. It started at 6 p.m. and
Mm-hmm.
it went to 9. So
Right.
what we did the Hot 97 classic showcase with Al Bandero. We opened up at 6.
Yeah.
And after the 2-hour radio show, we continued to broadcast live with all classics till 3 in the morning. Well, actually, we were open till 3 in the morning, but we broadcast till 2. So that's where that whole classic thing started on the holiday. We did it on Memorial Day Sunday, 4th of July Sunday, and Labor Day. That was the closeout of the summer. And so at some point, something had happened with Al. Al was either leaving the station or doing something else. I forget what it was. Paco Navarro, who, God rest his soul, he passed away a few years ago. Complete gentleman and everything. He, Judy Ellis, the general director of sales and the general manager of MS Broadcasting, she calls me up. She goes, "Listen," she says, "Paco's out of jail for a year now, and we want to bring him back. We want to spec him in, and we want to put him down at Temptations." And I'm like, "Sure." So
Why not?
we did it. We did it, and it was the first time Paco was in the nightclub. And he was away for I think 8-9 years.
Yeah, it was a while. Uh-huh.
I don't know exactly how long, but he was away for a while, and he got back into the groove of things, and they had him on the air doing the shows, and we broadcasted live, and it was insane. Ray Rossi was the producer, Franco Aimello was the spinner, and here comes Paco. And when he would hit the stage and they would hit the drop, the top of the hour ID, we had 800 people in the room already, and he would when he hit the stage, I swear to God, you thought Elvis was in the room. People lost it. And
Lost their shit, right?
lost their shit, and so did Paco.
Yeah.
So now here we are, Ray Rossi and Franco are staying with the program. Now you got to keep in mind, we're going live. We're going back to the studio to play commercials. So we're on a phone with the engineer from the studio. All right. Everything, we were doing a live radio show from the club. When you did the Saturday night dance party, it was commercial free. It just went.
Just went.
And then you play those drops. But this was very detailed. They were playing commercials and stuff. So, and the whole dynamics of the show was he was counting down the top 30 classics of all time. So the card machine that Franco had for the drops that he would hit for the Saturday night dance party, he had that for the classic showcase. Ray was the producer of the show. Ray came down with 30 carts because either Paco would introduce number 29, and after he would say, "This is number 29, Tavares," or whatever, as soon as he would do that, Franco would hit the drop, or Ray would hit the drop, hot number 29 for the voice of the station. Or they would, introduce number 28 without Paco. Anyway, what started happening was Paco lost his shit. He was drinking. He was, I gave him a bar tip like I did everybody else. He was drinking down by bar 6, and he was pounding some Remy's. And I mean pounding them. And as the show went on, he got so excited. People reacted to him so strong that he was coming into the booth, and he says to me, he goes, "Could I talk to Ray?" I'm like, "Yeah." So he goes to Ray, and he goes to Franco. He's like, "Listen, these people are here to see me. You leave the mic on. I want to talk to these people." Now, he was inebriated at this point in time.
Yeah.
So Ray's like, "Paco, we're live. We're running commercials. You can't talk over any vocals. When I have you programmed to talk over instrumentals only." And he really didn't get that because he didn't really come from that. Because he never really did a live broadcast like that.
No.
What he did, he knew that culture, he knew that dynamic from the studio, and even that he wasn't as precise. Like, he's not like a Broadway Bill Lee. Like when you listen to Broadway Bill Lee, he hits the post like,
yeah, he's in it.
It's like, yeah, like when you hit like you want to talk about the chameleon of radio, it's Broadway Bill Lee. He hits the post better than probably anybody.
Yeah.
Okay. You would think the music is in his goddamn veins, and it probably is, and we don't know it, So anyway, to make the long story quick, Ray's like, "No, I you can't. We're live. We got to run commercials. Please, I'm on the phone." He was trying to tend to him while he was on the phone, going, "Okay, we're going to commercial after this song." There's a lot. It's a lot of shit going, a lot of moving parts. So lo and behold, he charges the booth and he starts going after Franco. And Franco's like, "Huge, what the hell?" I'm like, "Dude." So now I try calming him down. All right. We were down to hot number 11. All right. So he's there, and I'm like, "What song are we up to?" I'm like, "We're up to number 11. And he comes out and he voices, "Okay, the Hot 97 Classic Showcase, ba 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 ba. Now, here's number 14." And in the card machine was number 11 because it was the 11th song.
Oh, snap.
So it was a nightmare. I wind up having to escort him off the stage. I had the light man kind of killed and dimmed the lights because a lot of people were watching. They saw that there was some disruption going on. I take him to the office, and I was kind of holding on to him, and he was blurbing out some stuff. He was all upset. He wanted to know if he was getting paid, and I'm like, "Yeah, you paid through the radio station." And then we were talking about how much money I was paying him and all this other science. And
oh boy.
And then yeah, so it was, and then, I mean, that immediate night. So he was there with his then girlfriend or wife, and she saw what was going on. They were parked in the front, and I don't know if you remember Jeff Marchetti.
Yeah.
Jeff Marchetti worked for me. He worked the door.
Hmm.
And Jeff, and Jeff's a funny son of a bitch. All right. Really, really funny. He saw what was going on. He was looking out for me. The place was mobbed. All right. His show was still on, and I'm outside. And he was trying to get behind the wheel. And the cops were like, listen, Eugene, if he gets behind the wheel, we're going to arrest him.
Done.
Like, no, his wife's going to drive, yada, yada, yada. Probably one of the funniest things ever, Jeff Marchetti being the comic that he is. He goes up to Paco and he says, are you Paco on the radio? So he's like, yes, I'm Paco. So Jeff's like, well, when you're done vomiting, because he was vomiting in the gutter.
Oh God.
He goes, when you're done vomiting, could I please get your autograph? I'm like, oh God, you can't make this shit up.
That's classic.
And then the next day, this was a Sunday night. The next day, Howard Stern gets on him, and he calls him up, and he puts him on the air. And Paco's like, no, I wasn't drunk. I had to take medication. I had a little bit of a flu, and he embarrassed him. He embarrassed him on K Rock, and he
Wow.
was talking about everybody at the radio station and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
that was and if you go on the internet, you'll find that shit on the internet.
I'm gonna
Funny as
do
hell.
that after here. Like literally, as soon as we're done, I'm checking that out.
Yeah, yeah. So
A lot of great,
I mean,
a lot of great time.
yeah. So that was a Temptations. It wasn't exactly a great memory, but it was pretty wild how that took place. And
Super wild.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's a great way to transition, I guess, into, place that I hold near and dear to my heart is the sound garden.
yeah. And you know what? The transition going back to Joel. After I passed the baton, it was renovated, and they wound up doing the renovation that was similar to what I was going to do. And the place reopened. It had all the bells and whistles that any nightclub ever needed. At the time, there was a transition of people that were working there. Some of my staff was still there, and then they weren't kind of getting together, and they kind of dispersed a little bit. Joel was in tech. Um, they put a lot of other people to work there, and Franco had gone on. Stevie was busy. Stevie, actually, like I told you, was working for Z100. He was busy working at Chicago. Greg Padula also. And Franco, dived into the record business, and then came in Denny Chetos. All right. And from that point on, it became Denny's room, and he did a phenomenal job. And then, uh, before you know it, I came back down there when Hot 97 went away, and in 1997, when the new KTU came on, right around that era, the owners remembered everything that went on there when I had it, and they're like, "Huge, could we do that live broadcast?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "It's going to cost you." And at the time, there was no more satellite truck because we had ISDN technology and stuff like that.
It made
And
things a whole hell of a lot easier.
yeah, yeah, and uh, so we were broadcasting this Sunday night from the holidays, and it was every bit of what we used to do back then. But it was on Sunday, and Denny was spinning them, and it was great. It was a really special night, and I would go down there and on behalf of the station, and I don't want to say produce the show, but I would just go there and make sure everything was right, the
Mm.
hookup and stuff, and the drops and everything, and I'd be walking into my old building that I spent 18 years in. I'm looking at this place. I'm like, look at this. Look at this. This place is as insane as it always was. It was even worse. I mean, it was during that era, that late '90s era when all that progressive sound started coming in, that really heavy house music, um, and that whole time right there from like 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2002. And all of a sudden you walk to the Temptations, everyone had their shirts off. I'm like, whoa, my God.
For me, those were the one.
Throwing. There was shit going on there that I would never tolerate. It's like, at the end of the night, it was like they're throwing freaking water up, hitting the speakers, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'd be having a heart attack right about now. I could, I was like, man, I can't.
Especially with that Canacho sound system, because we all know how much.
Oh God. Oh God.
Oh man.
But yeah, that was a special look. There was a special room in the 80s. It was marketed. Going back to the last episode that we had, Chicago was dialed in hard to New York radio. Well, so was Temptations in a big way.
Huge, massive.
Yeah, and that place. What's that term they use? Lit.
Yeah.
Right. It's lit. That shit was lit in the 80s.
Yeah.
A lot of the younger people that don't remember the 80s reach out to a couple of people that remember the 80s. It was just as lit in the 80s as it was in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Hmm.
Just a different time.
Different
But
time.
I will admit, and again, I'm not rolling on Joel here, but Joel was that party. He was like, at the end of the night when everything, when you got through 3/4 of the night, Joel would start drinking. All right. And I was there. I was there on certain nights and I remember seeing it and I'm like, what the fuck is Joel doing on the bar? I'm like, oh, there's a lot of things there that I kind of like. I'm a little different of an operator, but the place was definitely it was intense. There's no one that was going to clubs in that time frame that can't echo my words here. That place was incredible. The vibe in there was always nuts, and it got crazier even when I left.
Yeah.
I mean, and Denny did a great job. Denny, Denny took that room over, and look, still till today. Well, not right now because we're in COVID, but the Temptations reunion classics night that I do with Denny is
One of the best
perhaps.
parties.
Yeah, it's and look, not because it's ours, it's well marketed. um, I don't just make a flyer and go here, come here. I bring the theater of the mind to the ear and to the eye now in the digital platform.
Hmm.
And, I want to say that that's been going on for the last 12 years, 13 years. And when we did that, we would do that twice a year at Rise, and even as far back as the Soundgarden.
Yeah.
We did that event, and I throw down hard on the radio. I get everybody excited. I put in all those little, snippets of all that music that pretty much describes the event, and the magic gets recreated. Now, since Rise is closed, I've taken that event out on the road a couple of times. We went to Mr. East one year, was the first time since I closed. And then I think we went to Pure, which is the old Club Abyss. And not this past summer, the summer before, we went to HQ down in Ocean. Shout out to Benoit and Manny and Lou B down there. Those guys are struggling now with that situation with the COVID. But I went in there on a 3-week notice with 3 weeks of marketing, and you want to talk about lighting the place up. It was a rough weekend because Aerosmith was at the Borgata. You couldn't get a room anywhere.
That's a big show.
Yeah, you couldn't get a room anywhere, and we pretty much packed out the downstairs room. We had been 150 or so upstairs, but the downstairs was full. That's a big club, and what a beautiful room they got down there. What a great nightclub that is. The layout, the production, the sound, the video, man.
Yeah.
Probably one of the nicest rooms down there.
You know,
Probably one of the nicest rooms I've seen.
yeah. You know,
So
shame on me. I
so
haven't stepped in that room yet.
yeah. So and look, when we do these nights at at Rise, and then I started, I wasn't going to just rest it on Denny or, I brought in entertainment. I would bring in the acts from that era.
Yeah.
I've had Deborah Cox a couple of times. I brought in Rayner and Lucas Prada and Kim Sazi. I brought in Dark Beat. I brought in Kim Sazi. Trying to think of who else. Veronica. Been trying to do that. Jesus Christ. What's that guy's name that does that La La Land song?
Green Velvet.
Green Velvet. I've been trying to convince them to do that show there, but he insists on DJing it. And I'm like, listen, you're not the DJ for the show. Denny's the DJ. He's the brand along with the Temptations Classics Night.
Yeah.
So I can't remember now. Again, we need Ace to chime in. But I brought in a bunch of those acts from that time frame. Kim English, God rest her soul. We brought in Vanessa Mitchell, Jana.
I mean, everyone. And you want to know something, since we're talking about that, Temptations and that party. I guess it's only appropriate to just show a little clip. What do you say?
Go ahead. You got it?
Live from Rise in Lodi, it's the Temptations Reunion Classics Night with Danny Chedos working the mix.
Yeah,
Oh man,
I'm like dancing over here. I'm like doing
that was
the old school
great.
moves up here. Oh, that gave me chills, brother. That gave me chills.
That was great. And you know something? That was like a recap of a night. I didn't use that. I might have used some of those pieces as a commercial for the audio video compositions that I do for the digital world. But yeah, I mean, listen. And one thing, Andrew, that I've always learned that maybe a lot of people don't learn, that you don't burn out a good thing. I would do that 3 times a year, and it was special. I kept it special. Like I said, we bring in the artists, from that time frame. It was intense, and Denny would bring it every time he was there.
Yeah.
He really cooked it. That shit was bacon, man, from the minute, and it just, what a great time. And then to see all the customers,
Yeah.
Because you want to know something? It's an event that how I marketed it and what I did music wise with some of the artists that I would book and some of the things that I would do to market it, I wanted to create this bridge from the demographic that was in the thick of the 97 2000 era with the younger 26 to 35-year-olds that were in their teens while all of this was happening. If that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense.
Yeah. So if you came to those nights, you'll see that I created that bridge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, and when you do proper marketing, and you don't just depend on a static flyer to say here, Temptations logo, Danny Chetos, and that's it. You know, you're going to get the same result if you do the same thing that everybody else is doing. I'm very critical when it comes to that, and you know, it's just like if you go to an event that Louis DeVito does. Now, you know, I'll pound my chest a little bit and say how proud I am that I do all of Louis' marketing, and I did it from the time he came to me with his dream of the New York City Underground Party CD series when he started doing that in 97, 98. This is 20 years later. He goes out and does these events. He does them, every 8 weeks, 9 weeks, and he kills it wherever he goes, whether it's Long Island, whether it's Jersey, whether it's Philadelphia, up in Boston, I mean, down in Miami, because he sold a shitload of CDs, and you go to one of his events, and you talk about someone that brings it with the music, and if you go to his events, he's going to bring out that same older demo, but a younger demo too.
Yeah.
That were young, that remember him, and and to that audience, to a 26-year-old, that's new music to them. They
It's
love it.
it's total new music to them for sure.
Yeah.
But what's great about that is, isn't that amazing how it's new music to them, and good music is just always timeless, right? And
Yeah.
that's the great thing about this era when it comes to music, is just it's so good that it just transcends generations. And that's why some
Yeah.
classic nights, even the ones that I do and my classic live streams that I do, and everything, it speaks to such a big generation, almost kind of like how freestyle did. Freestyle
Yeah.
this day is,
Yeah.
love it. It's new music. It's refreshing to some, and it good music is timeless, I guess, is my point. And since you're speaking of Louis, I guess I'll just let it out of the bag now. Louis is going to be a guest on a
Oh,
few
awesome.
Chillin with Mendez, and you want to
Oh,
know,
that's awesome.
you sparked that idea for me, and then he came to see me DJ for my birthday last week, and when I saw him, I was like, you know what, Eugene, you popped in my head. I asked him right there on the spot. He's,
Oh, awesome.
of course. So Louis DeVito
Oh, awesome.
be on Chillin with Mendez.
Yeah, you know what? His story is real. He's a gentleman. Um, he's been misunderstood, Andrew, by a lot of people.
Hmm.
When he first came out, it's kind of weird. Him and Greg Padula were like this,
Yeah, I mean they started that CD series, and
and and when Louis calls me up, he called me up like in 1996, and he's like, "Hey, do you remember me? I'm Louis DeVito." And I'm like, "Louis DeVito?" And I remember he goes, "Yeah, I used to come to Temptations all the time." He wasn't big at Chicago, but he's come because he was friend. He goes, "I'm Greg's friend." I'm like, "Oh yeah," you know. And and then he came to me, and he's like, "Look, he goes, I do I'm doing a CD compilation thing, and I want to buy radio, and I want you to do those spots like you do for the clubs for me. Could you do that?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!"
oh yeah, why
And
not?
I
That's
and as I
smart
and
thing
as and
to
as I yeah, and as I got talking to him, like he reacquainted me with everything that I couldn't even freaking remember from back in the day. He's like, we'd sit there and talk. He's like, Huge, do you remember when you did this? And everything was at Temptations. And do you remember when you did this? And do you remember when you did that? And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I couldn't, I was saying to myself, God, hold on, I'm getting sick. I'm getting, losing my mind here. And I'd be like, yeah. And he would sit there and Andrew, it was nuts. He's like, Huge, do you remember the time it was the final Sunday of the season, and you gave last call, and you put the house lights on, and it was kind of a little bit early from normal, and all of a sudden, you shut the lights off, and you blew off these flash pots, and you closed the song out with the roof is on fire, and you literally had the ceiling in smoke. I'm like, yeah, Jesus Christ. I mean, and what he remembered was insane. But he was always up in the booth with Greg, and he would be, Greg's friend, and I wouldn't let too many people up there unless they had to go, record label people or radio people that had to see Franco. And then, God rest his soul, I told a bunch of people the story. Eric Murillo was a student of my brother. Eric went to Emerson High School. And my brother Lenny had said to me, "Hey, Huge, could you do me a favor?" I'm like, "Yeah, this guy is he's a DJ record producer guy, and he's like really he's got this thing for Franco for your DJ." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Could you let him in the club?" He's not going to drink or anything like that. And listen, I was very strict and everything, but I looked at him. He was young. He was quiet. He always came in with records, and I would put him by the steps. And he would come to Chicago and come to Temps, and he would wait for Franco when the night was over to sit there and talk to Franco. And he would bring him records. And so there were a couple of big time people around that whole scene that under the radar.
Yeah.
I mean,
Up and
Franco.
coming.
I mean, look.
Up and coming.
Yeah, I mean, listen. If you talk to and look, I looked at Franco and I mentioned his name an awful lot, and he steals the headlines because, in the record business world, he went far, man. He was,
You can't deny
he
that.
worked, he was senior vice president of Warner Brothers for 14 years, and he was also in the record business at Mercury for 3 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk to someone like Louis DeVito, he was inspired to spin. He's going to tell you, Franco. You talk to someone like Johnny Buds, who's another great spinner.
Very flawless mixer.
Yeah, who he wasn't in my mix early on. He was in my mix back in the Rise era. You talk to guys like Buds, they're going to tell you that their inspiration was Franco. A lot of those guys, a lot of their inspirations was Franco. Guys like Scott Blackwell too,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll come right out. They'll come right out and tell you, like, this is. You'll hear that come out of Louis' mouth. They'll be like, the reason why I'm a DJ is Franco.
Yeah. Reason why DJs
So
and Glenn Frisha, those two were it for me.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and but it also showed you how powerful the radio was.
Huge.
A lot of people, there's a lot of people that weren't involved with radio that will sit there and go the other way on that.
Yeah, they were poo-pooing.
They didn't have, because they didn't. Yeah, because they didn't. But the radio was very powerful. And I mean, like I said with Chicago, it's like over the course of from 1986 to 1992, I had close to $1.7 million spent on. That's like $300,000 a year. That's a lot of frequency. That's a lot of impressions. Um, and listen, the whole magic behind pulling up to a nightclub at 11 o'clock, 11:30, and hoping that you can get in the same time while that song that was playing in your car is playing in the club. And even down at Temptations, Andrew, it was so insane to be outside and to put your eyes on people that would, listen, the Boulevard always had traffic all night long, both ways, like crawling. but it was so intense because people, when we were doing the live broadcast, the Saturday Night Dance Party from Temps or the Classic Showcase, people were sitting, they couldn't wait to drive by. They go, holy shit, we're listening to the radio and they're playing that in the club. And, you know, and when you passed by the nightclub, Andrew, because we had the doors open.
Yeah, you could hear.
I
Yeah.
mean, look, I had 100 tons of air conditioning and it wasn't enough. All right. When you drove by Temps, all you heard was boom, 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 boom. You know, and every time that bass hit, you know, the air moved hot air out of the club. Like, because it like jolted your body, you know. But yeah, you know, look, I mean, these guys were and again, I go back to, you know, this is the Jersey thing. And, you know, this happened in New Jersey. And it's like New York had their own other thing going on in the Hamptons and stuff like that. And
Yeah. But we had our
but
own thing.
summertime down there.
We had our
Yeah.
own thing. And only the people who experience it understand it and hold
Yeah.
it dear to our hearts, because I know that's definitely something for me. Like the later years of Temptations and you know, Soundgarden. I wasn't around for the Chicago days, but that time you started the Soundgarden, and the later years of Temptations was when I was not young, but I was breaking into the scene, and I was going to your place every Saturday, hanging out by Mike Abrams' bar, Richie Vitale's bar, Ace's bar, Elvis, and just hanging out every Saturday and being a student of the game. And I really do attribute a lot of, you know, my success was to just seeing a real nightclub operate, and Soundgarden was such a huge part of my life. I mean, literally every Saturday, even at Rise every Saturday. And
Yeah.
you know, it was just such a magical place, and it meant so much to me and meant so much to so many people that I'm sure is on right now. I just want to give a couple quick shout outs out there. We got a very, very, very big shout out to Vic Latino. What's up, Vic?
How
How are
you doing,
you?
Vic?
Go shout out to my dudes. So Vic Latino's on, and then we have actually DJ Riddler on.
Oh my God.
What's
I'm
up?
gonna you know what, Rich? I'm gonna tell you when we do the next segment, I'm gonna tell you a story about Swedish House Mafia
Uh huh.
during the Rise era and how Riddler got involved and tipped me off on something.
Yes, I remember you might have mentioned something that to me in our
Yeah.
conversation. So that's definitely. Hey, Rich, Kuya Rich.
Love Rich.
Next Thursday. Oh wait, Thursday is freaking Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Can't do one next Thursday.
The following Thursday, Kuya Rich. You got to tune in for that Swedish House Mafia story because it's awesome, and you already know it, but it's gonna be great. But yeah, I guess that brings us into Soundgarden for a few.
So yeah. So you know, listen. Um, so you said you would come in the Soundgarden, and you know, a lot of people over the years have asked me. And I think I said this the last time we did this interview. Places that change their names, um, for the most part, either have some kind of an imaging problem or business got a little slow when they got a little nervous. Look, when I did a
But you though,
renovation,
not you. Like you always change it at the peak.
yeah, you know, look, going back to the Chicago and even during the Temptation era, all right, I didn't sit there. I remodeled every couple of years because you know shit changes. You need a new skin. You need a new look. Okay. Um, when I flipped Chicago to Soundgarden, there was a musical change. I did it because there was a musical shift. Things were changing in the industry. That big, powerful Tuesday night, I'm going to tell you something really interesting. That started losing its steam. When we reopened at Soundgarden, we still had Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. Tuesday was dwindling. Okay. The reason why Tuesday was dwindling, and I'm going to click this in your head here right now, this was 97, 98, 99. The front runners that were going out to the clubs on Saturday night, after they would come to a place like Soundgarden or Club Abyss back then, or Joey's in Clifton, or what other place that was, that had that, front runner type crowd, they had a late night aspect. And, Ace will be able to tell you all about all of this, like, and even my own help, They used to get dressed and leave and put their glasses on with their weird shirts, and they'd be partying until freaking Sunday afternoon at the Sound Factory and Twilo and all those other places, and right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I would recall definitely meeting Richie and Ace, and we would head up.
Elvis, yeah, everyone did. Yeah, and they were going there, and they were going in. I know what the hell was going on there, and look, those front runners, and when you had the cool kids, the cool guys that were working for me, partying with the help. I mean, partying with the customer late night. You know, those places didn't get going until 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay. The thing was that didn't from 90. I want to say like 97 or 98, and Ace could help me out with this. Till like 2001, 2002. That was like I never seen that. That was so strong during that time, and it wasn't just New Jersey. It was Brooklyn. It was Staten Island. It was Long Island. And, you know, the unique thing about Manhattan is, on any given week or month in Manhattan, there could be as many as 12 to 14,000 people that are going there that are tourists from England, from Europe. And what did they do? They went to the clubs. And they went to the clubs late because they didn't have to get up. They were there for 3, 4 days. They got this shit knocked out of them. They got cleaned out, their clock cleaned out with high cover charges and expensive drinks and the whole thing. They were on vacation. It's like someone from Jersey going to Las Vegas. Well, that's what New York nightlife was to people that were vacationing. And at any given time, minimum 7,000, 8,000 people from, as much as 14,000 people at a time coming to New York. So, these nightclubs like Twilo and Sound Factory and all those spots, they had that audience as a constant base. And then we used to call it Bridge and Tunnel. And then you'd have the Bridge and Tunnel people. But that era with Jonathan Peters and Junior Vasquez and all of those guys, the Tunnel and all those spots, the late night scene really, really accelerated to another level.
Yeah.
So what happened was the front runners that would be out on Saturday night, whether it be in Lodi or in Clifton or down in Sayreville or wherever, in Hoboken, those front runners had the energy and the need to impose their will to go out and hit the reset button and go party at another place
Mhm.
till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Or 2 a.m.
Now,
or 2. No, I'm just kidding.
or 2. No, but it's true.
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's like they're there. That was the foundation of my Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday night was full of industry and front runners.
Yeah.
Guess what? That party scene from 4 o'clock in the morning in New York City, all right, to Sunday afternoon, which by the way is how brunch came about. Anyone that wants to tell you that they invented
Story.
anybody that wants to tell you that they invented brunch, all right, allow me to clear that shit up right now.
Yeah.
That happened by accident. Why? Because when you walked out of Sound Factory Twilo Tunnel, the sun was out. Now you went to have something to eat. Well, while we're here, let's drink more.
Absolutely. Keep the party going.
exactly. So guess what? Those front runners, that whole scenario pretty much destroyed my Tuesday night. It went away.
Mm-hmm.
So now the purpose of me reinventing Chicago the Sound Garden wasn't because of that, but just it just so happens that that movement was happening. Um, things were different. I couldn't get 2 dance nights anymore. I needed to do something different on a Friday that didn't compete with Saturday. Because you know what? One thing, I consult many a nightclub over the years, and watching as the calendar flips over, you could be your own competitor. You could compete with yourself and hurt your own business by trying to do too much of the same thing. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so the real reason why the place was rebranded as Sound Garden, which by the way I owe Tony Monti the props for giving me that name, because I was trying to come up with something that depict mixed use, that was about sound, music, sound, all that. An arena, that's where the garden came up,
Hmm.
you know. And again, there were a couple of haters out there that were like, well, he named it Soundgarden because he wanted to be Sound Factory. No, thank you.
Beat it.
Sit the hell down.
Yeah.
I didn't,
Simmer down.
I didn't,
Down now.
yeah, sit down. I didn't want to be, if there's anything Lodi was, it didn't want to be nothing but what we were.
Exactly. Amen.
Plain end of that story. So anyway, the Soundgarden, the name rang a bell because it was about sound, and it could have been anything. It could have been dance, it could have been rock, it could have been Latin, it could have been anything. Garden meaning, garden of sound, or garden coming off of a Madison Square Garden, an arena kind of thing. So, and the subtitle was Soundgarden, New Jersey's Nightlife Arena.
Mm-hmm.
That was the subtitle, because I always change that in my marketing. And I did it. I knew I was going to have the Saturday okay, with the dance music, but I brought in
Center.
center stage night at the Soundgarden.
Loved center stage. Honestly, like I've never Eugene, like you see me there Fridays, Saturdays. It really honestly for me as a customer, it gave me everything that I've ever wanted in just music because I play instruments. I played in bands growing up. I also had the DJ thing, but it also broke up my week when I
Yeah,
wasn't getting banged over the head because I was still DJing other places and I needed that break of that music and center stage with all the bands that you booked. I actually looked forward. I don't want to say more so than Saturdays to Fridays, but I really looked forward to Fridays. And when that started, it was awesome. Awesome. And
Andrew, those were great. Those were great nights. They were busy. There were a bunch of bands already doing business on the circuit, like the Nerds and Dog Voices, and
Mhm.
and like the Love Pumps, I think, and back then. And what happened was Jenkinson's. Okay, the Storinos are very dear friends of mine. I also happen to do their marketing.
Mhm.
Now, because I'm close with them, I would, you know, by the end of my fall or my winter, if I would break a new band,
They were
we'd
huge.
be on the, yeah, in other words, if Frank or Anthony would call me up and go, or Joe Carthage or John Munson, they'd be like, hey, huge, any new talent. Um, yeah, I just broke a band called Big Orange Cone.
Oh wow.
You know, I put them in the room, and if I gave them the nod, Big Orange Cone was booked like three
Everywhere.
times a month.
Yeah.
No, I mean in Jenks.
Mhm.
So in other words, if I broke Big Orange Cone in the month of December, okay, they would play my room. They started building up steam because I started developing a house crowd to the Friday, to people that like the bands.
Mhm.
Okay, so I would talk to the people at Jenks, and they'd be like, "Big Orange Cone. All right, yeah, they're doing really well." Boom, instantly they were in there.
Yeah.
After they would play a whole summer down at Jenks, that following fall,
Brought everybody back up.
no, you could just see it increased their draw
Mm-hmm.
because they developed more fans from people that were going to the shore.
Yeah.
You know, people are funny, and it's funny how it works. It's like, you know what? You go down to Jenkinson's. There's 2,500, 3,000 people in the room, exciting as all hell. And here's this band with Dennis and Walt on stage, and and Stacy and all these people, and it's like, holy shit, Big Orange Cone. And people are weird. It's like they think that a lot of the people are there because of Big Orange Cone. Now, granted, are there people there for Big Orange Cone? Yes. But there's also people that are there because it's Jenkinson's. You know, Jenkinson's is an icon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jenkinson's is the asset. You know, all of these bands and anyone that's involved in, you know, from an artistic point of view, should be very, very, you know, appreciative and very happy that they're able to play and make money in playing in these rooms.
Yes.
So after that would happen, when they would come back up north, and you know, they would come back to Soundgarden, boom, and that repeated with the Benjamins. When the Benjamins first came out, they were called Big Toe.
Yeah.
These guys were from Garfield. Yeah, Joe and his brother. Yeah, and they blew up too. It was Benjamins and Big Orange Cone. Then the other thing, you know, you had Dog Voices that they already had in the mix. But what I had to go outside the box because, you know, Soundgarden's a big room. All of these bands that were playing back then, outside of Jenkinson's, Trade Winds, clubs like that down the shore,
Mm-hmm.
up north, all the other places that were doing these bands were small.
Yeah. Very small.
200 people, packed. I needed 200 people at Ball One, where Ace was.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, actually, your DJ on Friday nights. That was one of the reasons why.
Yes. Yeah, Ace was spinning, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he freaking had the time of his life.
Oh.
And excuse me. So what I did, I went outside the box, and at that time, from '97 to 2005, you know, Center Stage Night got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I would bring in a lot of acts that didn't have a name in the Jersey market, but I developed them. They were big in Pennsylvania. Groups like Mr. Green Jeans, groups like Love Seed Mama Jump, groups like Steamroller Picnic, groups like Fuzzy Bunny Slippers. These bands were awesome. They came in with strong rigs. They had digital mixing done. Their mix down was done digitally. They were great with sound, and you know, and there you go. You know, I had bands like other local bands from Jersey, like the Willies. You know, Willie was a great entertainer, and so the Soundgarden Center Stage Night at the Soundgarden was a phenomenal night. The crowd was different. They drank. They were a lot more well behaved. You know, they were a different animal.
It was just it was a fun bunch. Like just
Yeah.
the vibe was such a good change of pace that
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm getting chills thinking about it. And
Yeah.
I would really love how a band sounded at Soundgarden because was that when you put up the soundproofing throughout the club and
Yeah.
that was when you
Yeah.
put it in and it's
Well, I did that. Listen, I did that. That was just part of me being this anal.
you had Orlex all over the club. I can't even imagine what that.
Yeah.
I know what it costs to put Orlex here. I haven't even done it yet.
Yeah. Look. I even got
I
something
know.
behind me here because I do my recording right here.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. That's
So
amazing.
so basically, but my office is my studio. And like when you walked into Soundgarden and even Chicago, well, more or less, I started getting really anal latter part of, I guess from being in the radio business and stuff too, you got to be able to walk into a room and clap your hands and get no reflection at
No
all.
reflection. Mm-hmm.
You want it to sound like a studio, because then you're going to hear all the rich sounds from your voice, from your instruments, the music. Now, Conaccio, by far, was the bastard of sound audio engineers, right? I couldn't rest my laurels on that. I had to go one step above. I made sure I carpeted the front of the bars.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure I carpeted the walls, because my whole thing is, when you walk into a nightclub, you look from the waist up.
Yeah.
I don't need to put lights at the bar and nice thing in front of a bar. When you're full of people, you don't see the bar. But do I need that extra absorption? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one year I must have spent like 20 grand in Orlex.
Yeah.
I had it shipped. I think I was doing a renovation. You can ask Ace and Big Dave. They're like, what the hell is this? I had a tractor trailer drop off Orlex, and we freaking sat there for 3 days gluing this shit all over the place.
Yeah, Ace was like he glued all the foam. But you want to know something that I did hear, and I don't know, you might have to confirm this, because this was something Ace has told me in the past, and he actually brought it up in the comments. He goes, the real reason why he upgraded the sound system was because everyone used to brag about the Twilo sound system.
Well, look, you know what? It goes back to the New York thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I've never been to Twilo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I'm sure, and listen, I trust people like Ace. I trust people's ears. Okay. I wasn't the kind of person to go out and go look at another club to get ideas. I just never did that.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly didn't do that when it came to audio, because if it did, you wouldn't have had the audio experience that you had at Temptations, at Chicago, at Soundgarden, and by far probably the biggest monster would be the upgrade I did to Rise.
Yeah, that was
And look, every room has its own character, because the rooms are different. You got a certain height ceiling, where the bars are and stuff like that. I remember going to meet with a guy named Seth Langer. He was a lighting guy, and he wanted to show me a 5-watt laser. So I went to this club in the city called Red Zone.
Aha. Okay.
All right. And it was actually a pretty funny story. I went there during the day, and he was going to, put this thing on there and show me this laser. And I was like skeptical, because it's 5 watts. I don't know if it was even legal for me to have that in the room at the time. So I'm waiting in the nightclub. This guy lets me in, and this guy walks out, and and I'm looking around at the sound system, and here they are mopping a floor with a dirty mop, and there's this big bass bin that would look like it was made out of press board. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Whoa.
And like I seen the guy moving it around and the mop behind it, and then he moved it back, and the wire unplugged, and then I'm looking behind the DJ booth. Now I know David Morales was spinning there. He was
Yeah.
their resident DJ.
The resident there.
And so I'm looking behind the booth, and nothing was, it was on top of plywood. And I'm like, all right. Now, my booth, Conaccio was an anal son of a bitch, and everything had to be freaking laminated with, glass laminate, and I'm like, all right, whatever. And it looked beautiful. It was nice and clean, and you could ask Ace about that. Ace used to go nuts if someone would spill a drink off of it. Ask Otto too. So I'm looking at the rack behind the DJ booth, and there's all these Macrotech Crown amps, and they had a shitload of them. And I'm looking at it, and this guy walks out, and he goes, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Good." I go, he goes, "What's going on? You meeting Seth here?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "I'm from New Jersey." He goes, "Oh." He goes, "Typical New York nightclub answer. You're gonna love this one, Andrew." He's like, "Are you from New Jersey?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "What do you have in Jersey?" Now, dude, this was when I was at my peak. When I tell you my peak, all right, if Chicago and Temptations ate a piece of pepperoni, Hot 97 would burp.
Oh my lord.
I said to this guy, his name was Maurice Brahms. He's like, "So you're from Jersey?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "What do you have in Jersey?" I'm like, "I have a place at the shore called Temptations, and my other place up north is Lodi Chicago nightclub." You know what he said to me?
What?
"Oh, I never heard of him." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "I see you're looking at the sound system. You want me to turn this on? So you want to hear it?" I'm like, "You don't have to, but if you want to, sure, why not?"
Sure.
He turns on the sound system. I thought I was making fucking popcorn.
Oh my god.
And here we are in red zone again. There's that New York City thing. So yeah, I mean, Ace is about the Twilight thing. I didn't need any inspiration. Um, I did. One thing I never was, I was kind of self-inspired. I'm going to say that, and I'll probably peacock on that one.
Hmm.
The only thing that influenced me was me. I didn't, I didn't go out to Twilight and go, "Oh shit, I got to do that." I'm sure they had a great rig, but
Well, I've been
they're
to both, and what I
yeah.
want to say is, Eugene, bro, dude, your sound system was sick. Your sound system, it was sick.
Listen, and you want to know, you want to know something? I'm very privy to being politically correct.
Hmm. As I
Okay.
do.
You could ask Ace this. God rest his soul. He used to bring his mixes before he went to final print. There's a producer, spinner, Peter Rohofer.
Yeah.
All right. I never put this out there. Hey, guess what? Do you know that Peter Rohofer comes down here during the day to listen to his mix before? All
Wow.
right. You ask Ace. All right. Now, I think he passed away like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. He was a pretty big producer back then, right?
Yeah, Grammy Award winning. I mean,
Yeah.
Peter
He used to
Rohofer.
come down. He used to come down and ask me. I forgot how I got to know him. If he could listen to his stuff before he went to final, because in Soundgarden, you know, it, the EQ was so articulate. You heard everything,
Everything.
everything, and with the room being padded and the whole bit, you were in a large studio, and Peter used to come down there and put his stuff on the turntable
That's
on
amazing.
an acetate.
Acetate. There's a spot right by in the middle of the dance floor by that one glass column that you just stand in the middle of that column and everything just sounded so like pristine. It was
Yeah,
sent chills up and down my spine.
yeah. I mean, listen, I take a lot of pride in it. I know I always gave my best. You know, the misconception. Mike Canaccio had a very, very bad misconception that he was very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
He was expensive, but his stuff didn't break.
Didn't break. Can you believe out of all these years, I met him for the first time this past summer.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was like, sh- I guess you could say like celebrity shock. Could not believe that I was finally meeting the great Mike Camacho after all
Yeah, he's
of
great. What a great guy.
playing his systems. And
What a gentleman. And listen, he put some big rigs out there. He has a great rig, and he had a great rig in Hunka Bunker. He
yeah,
had a great rig in Abyss. He put a great rig in Deco Lounge.
yeah,
Um, he originally, of course, Temptations, Club Excess,
yeah.
massive rig.
I used to love playing that room.
Yeah, I mean, the headliner. He had a great rig and a headliner. You
Yeah,
know, so I mean,
I
he
was
did a
gago
place in
for him.
he did a place in Queens called Crash.
Crash. Yeah, that's right. I completely forgot he did Crash.
Yeah,
His house, but I got to play there once or twice.
yeah,
That was a great system. I completely forgot that he did that too.
yeah, yeah. He does. So again, going back to the whole thing, and you know, Mike was Mike was he was true blue to me. I became really close to him. I actually used to get upset when I would see him not grow. He deserved to be. And listen, there's other good guys out there too. You know, that Craig is cool. Um, you know, but he was just a solid guy. Love him to death. Good guy.
Always
But
he
like I said,
above and beyond
what
always, and such a great soul. Great.
yeah, you know what it is? You know what it is? If I was to do an upgrade, and Ace will tell you this, if I was to do an upgrade, before he would sell me a new piece, whether it be a digital equalizer or if I would upgrade my mid-range speakers in these four plays that he made that were custom, or you know a certain tweeter came out, or a certain lens, or a certain type of EQ that was between the mixer and the digital EQ. He would sit there and say to me, "Okay, huge. So you know how you hear this? Well, now you're going to hear this, but with more of that and more of this and more of that."
Wow.
Now, I can't go back and get specific, but everything that he told you, like it's almost like putting something in your mouth and tasting it. There's this much salt, this much pepper, cumin, sage, like that. That's how he broke it down to you. And I just found him, and you know, he was just dead on with everything. And you want to know something? You know, by far the most important component of nightlife is great sound. You
Amen.
know, bad sound is like is like serving a bad drink.
Big time. And I never understood over the many, many, many years of myself being in the industry and meeting all these club owners and places that I would spin. I never understood why places, and this definitely was not you or Costa Dimitri or any of you guys, but like, why I never understood why club owners would cheap on the sound system and lighting show when, as you just said, it's the most important thing. Like, how could owners do that? And I would step into clubs all across the country and everywhere, and I would think that people would invest in their sound system as much as you did because coming from the tri-state area in New Jersey and sound environments, Mike Canaccio, Twilo, playing Sound Factory, like nobody took it seriously, and you were one of the few that did, and that
Well, you know what it is. A lot of people, if you get inside their head, they don't see how that makes money for you.
it's
You
back.
know, look, it's you know their focus is elsewhere. Their focus is I got to have Barbie dolls behind the bar. You know, that's like bathrooms. You know, I was always a fanatic with my bathrooms.
Your
Everyone, you
bathrooms were
know,
so clean, and I don't know about the female attendant, but your male attendant at Soundgarden and Rise, always money, on point.
yeah. But you know, I mean, you would walk into my bathroom and you would think you know, you would think it was just built yesterday. You know, and that's the way it's supposed to. But again, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, they don't see how that makes. You know, I don't make money with the bathroom. You know, I make money with a you know a hot looking guy and a girl behind the bar. I mean, I go to a restaurant. If I go to the bathroom and I see that bathroom is like anywhere near disgusting, you have to sit there and go, wait a second. What the hell's the kitchen look like? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You know, I mean, You can't walk into a bathroom that smells like a fucking bathroom, and it's crazy. It's like, I'm going to tell you a funny story. And again, Ace and guys like Dave Mendez and people that were around me at the time when when the law came in that you couldn't smoke anymore. What year was that?
Oh,
Around 89?
yeah. Wait, no, it was. Did you say 89?
Yeah.
What? No smoking in the clubs?
No, no, no. It was 2006.
Yeah, I was gonna. It was definitely. Yeah, I was gonna say around then. One of the best
I
things
rem- and the
happened.
reason why I remember that is because I'm coming up on the anniversary of my mom passing. She passed away December 3rd, 2005, and my mom spent the last 3 months of her life at Calvary Hospital in the Bronx, and every night I would go and visit her, and I was able to sleep over. Place was phenomenal. My mother would be like, "Could you go home?" She would kick me out of the hospital. Um, why, Mom? You smell like smoke. When you're in a hospital and everything's pure and everything's
Sure, everything's
disinfected, and
sanitized. Yeah.
yeah. So, and my mother used to say, no, no, just go home. And I was like, oh my God, you smell like smoke. I'm like, all right, I don't want to piss off my mom. So it was definitely after 2005.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm going to tell you something. And I hope we're not going over. We are going over. It's 10:30. Jesus Christ. You know, I'll never forget when the smoking stopped and you couldn't come in. Everyone's like, "Oh shit, this is going to kill the business. People want to smoke." We had to create a smoking area outside. We had to put tents. When during the winter, we had to throw heat
Heater.
outside,
Yeah.
heaters. And people had to take their drink with them. It's like, all right, are we going to have people put a drink on a table and someone, God forbid, is going to tamper with their drink? There were all kinds of possibilities of
Remember.
problems.
Absolutely.
Okay, but I'll never forget, and you're going to love this as a DJ too. And everyone that's listening to this, that's a music guy, I want you all to pay special attention to this. But because we're on the bathroom thing, I had the room disinfected. I had the curtains steamed. I had the bar. I had everything cleaned. I had we cleaned anyway, but I just had it extra clean because now no more smoke. Because smoke builds up residue on your truss, on
Big.
your lights,
The
you
air.
know, everything. It's like,
Uh,
even though you have air cleaners that cost a fortune, you still got smoke residue,
yeah.
wiping the walls down, the ceiling, the whole nine.
Yeah. Gross.
The first night, now you could start smelling liquor. You could, like there's certain liquors that have a strong odor that overpower other liquors, like gin.
Gin.
You could smell gin. You could smell scotch. You know what I mean? And then when you walk by the bathrooms, and forgive me for saying this, it's like, you know, my bathrooms never smelled, but if someone had to go to the bathroom, even though I had air cleaners inside the bathroom, that used to get camouflaged with the smoke.
Not anymore.
So, but going back to the bathrooms were important to me. And it's important that someone was handing you a towel. And Scott was the guy there back then. And the other people before him, Johnny Greco, and so on and so forth, and the people in the ladies' room. The ladies' room, I made the ladies' room so girls could go in and hang out. The ladies' room was a freaking hangout,
Hmm.
but it was comfortable. But anyway, to all the DJ people, and I've said this to everybody in the music industry, the smoking law had a massive impact on the music programming in the club.
How so?
Think about this. All right. Let's say a room like Soundgarden on a Saturday night. 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say there's 700 people in the room. All right. Would you agree that 50% of them are on the dance floor?
Yeah.
What percentage of those people on the dance floor smoke? Would you agree that maybe 50% of them?
You're right. Yeah. No.
Oh, okay. So what happened? Now
It
you
brought
couldn't
different.
smoke.
It brought.
No, you couldn't smoke while you were on the dance floor. You
Mm-hmm.
had to go outside and smoke.
You had to go outside.
At any given time, you could lose 50% of your dance floor to a nicotine fit.
Yeah. I
Think
mean,
about this, Andrew. This is going to make a lot of sense to you, being a musical guy. And you could ask Ace this, you could ask Stevie Zaccone this, you could ask anybody that was in my circle. Okay? You're now competing with a nicotine fit because 50%, maybe higher, of your dance floor now is going outside. Here you are. Your goal is to hook them, to
yeah.
bring them in, to crescendo them with these freaking peaks and valleys. But now you're competing with a nicotine fit. So what did that do?
It delayed the night.
It gave way, all right, to the mashup thing. See, I study this real strong. It's like, here you are, you're like, you don't know why here you are, it's 2006, okay? You got the same music that you're playing in 2005, and all of a sudden you don't even realize why you're losing the dance floor. So what are you forced to do? You're forced to bang in another record that you know is going to get a reaction. But the cause and effect is not really in your face, but it is. Because those people are leaving to go outside and have a smoke. Does that make sense?
It honestly, it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. And like the light bulbs, the many of them started going off as you're explaining all this. Didn't never really.
Like, just think about it. Where did this mashup shit come from? Why? All right, I understand that you have a computer and you have a CD and you can call up a record real quick, but why did this happen? Yeah, it
Yeah,
was like
that's
perfect.
insane.
It was like perfect timing.
iPod it.
You know, it's like like iTunes. When iTunes came out, it's like, you got people sitting in front of their computers on their iPads or their iPod. They're not even listening to a full song because you could call up a record that quick. It's like you're not even listening to a full song. How
Nah.
many people do that, right? But think about the dynamics of a nightclub, and think about, you got 700 people in the room, 350 of them are engaged in the dance floor, and when you're in a room like Lodi that's got sound that's
In
shaking
grill.
your pants,
Right
and
here.
it's all over you, pounding your chest. You're not only losing people on the dance floor, you're losing people in the room. That because at any given time, you could ask anybody, there could be 250 people outside smoking.
Yeah.
So now the DJ had to compete with nicotine. Is that insane?
Yeah. Never really.
Now, this ain't the first. I've shared this with a bunch of people. I've shared this with Denny. I've shared this with, I mean, anybody in my camp already knew this because they heard me gushing with this stuff all the time. So this is nothing new to them. But any of the spinners that I would talk to from Long Island or Manhattan, New York guys, Jersey guys, that when I would get into conversations with them, I'm like, look, this is a problem. And they'd be like, holy shit, never thought of that. Well, I'm into the music. I understand what the hell's going on. And guess what? The same thing happens when you're with a live band.
Yeah.
If you're in a club and you got a live band and that band's doing a 1 hour set, all right, you got to be awfully good to hold people back from going outside and grabbing a smoke.
Yeah, you got to like really think of. You're absolutely right. You got to keep banging it out as quickly as possible to keep everybody's attention.
Smoking changed the dynamics and the fundamentals of a live venue, a dance venue, or anything that had to do with any engagement on that dance floor. I got to go smoke. And then think about this too, Andrew. You're dancing with a girl. You smoke. She doesn't smoke. I want to go have a cigarette. All right, I'm coming with you. Well, how about the girl that smokes? I want to go have a cigarette. I'm going to come with you. Now you lost two people.
Two. Yeah, I was gonna say now you're getting screwed twice.
I mean, listen, if I'm hanging out, all right, and I'm hanging out with a girl that I want to spend some time with, or I want to get with her, or whatever you want to call it, and I'm dancing with her, and we're having a good time, and she's like, "Where you going? I'm going to have a cigarette. All right, can I come with you? Yeah, come on." Now you just lost two people.
Yeah.
Like I watched this, I've observed this, and I'm like, "Holy shit!" I could smell liquor. There's some odors emitting from the bathrooms now that we never saw because they were drowned out by smoke. And now we got the DJ and the live bands that are competing with everyone's nicotine fit.
Wow. Schooling it tonight, brother.
Dude, it's just, it's kind of insane, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I never had that conversation with you, but I've had it with a bunch of guys, a bunch of
Mhm.
spinners, and they looked at me like, "Holy shit, I never thought of that." And guess what? I truthfully believe that's where you started seeing people cutting in music to kind of get the crowd back, and didn't realize, all right, I got the crowd back. Now I just lost them again.
Yeah.
I
Like
mean, the whole mashup thing frustrates the shit out of me.
same
I
here.
would tell some of these guys, like, listen, and then without mentioning anybody's name, it's like you got these guys, scratching house music. Like, get the fuck out of here! What are you doing? Scratching house music?
Don't get it. Don't get it. Don't get it.
Like, you
No.
know, I mean, please, like, no one cares about you. No one cares about that skill.
No.
But like
Because
the whole mashup thing, like,
because it's not the vibe. There's no vibe when you're doing that kind of stuff.
no. And you want to know something? We'll get into this in the next session when we talk about Rise with the exclusive Latin Friday thing. I had some great guys that I brought in on Latin nights that had experiences at other clubs, and like they're sitting there, and in the course of 30 minutes, they're playing 40 something records.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? And I would sit there and I would explain to a certain guy, and listen, these guys were good. They were good spinners and stuff like that. I'd be sitting there saying to him, dude, you just started playing someone's jam. They just ran to the dance floor and you jumped out into another song. Why?
Yeah.
You're pissing people off. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But you want to know something? In the last 10 years, 15 years, these younger guys, this is the way it is. I got to play 90. Why? Because I have the technology. And they think that this is what people want to hear. You're not at a ping pong game.
No.
It's like, no. It's like, it's like, you like, here's the ping pong table right here. And you're like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it turns, no, you got to be sitting freaking 30 feet away, like, so it's amazing how certain things affected the fundamentals of nightlife.
Fundamentals. Yeah.
Smoking,
Go figure.
this whole mashup thing, like this whole mashup thing makes me want to freaking stick a needle in my eye.
Yeah. I never liked it. And, I remember another great mixer who I wouldn't say phrased it like the way you just did, but Mike Rizzo always used to tell me, let the music speak for itself and it creates the vibe on your floor.
Right.
because I remember I used to get into the habit of cutting records in and out. Not too much, but I remember that was one of the things he told me very early in my career that stuck with me.
Well, and look, people will sit there and say that this generation doesn't have an attention span.
Hmm.
That's why they have to do that. I think the DJs today think that this is what they have to do. That's how they profess their skills. It's not.
No,
It's just not. It's like, play the song.
play it.
You know,
There's a
you
reason
know,
why the producer made it that way is to feel the vibe and the energy of the music that is produced.
exactly. If you go back to 97 to 2002 with all that house music movement coming in, and
12.
when you when you think about that, every record had that build up.
Yeah. Epic marathon mixes, 12-minute songs. Look at Your Love Is My Love.
Yeah,
Epic.
yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
guess what? I mean, even back in the 70s with the whole disco thing, like I was telling you about with Louis Caprisos, playing music like by Salso Orchestra, like the 12-inch playing like a 20-second, a 20-minute mix, and, dropping in some stuff here and there. And, the whole mashup thing was, I'm telling you, it came about because of the smoking and the technology being there to do it.
Yeah.
Because you want to know something? It's a goddamn headache. It's a headache.
Yeah.
And in the Latin market, you got these guys in the Latin market. They're like, you can't be banging in a bachata song or a salsa record
Hmm.
or gumbo. You can't, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
I understand you want to give everybody variety, but and then the whole banging mashup thing, the predictability is another thing. Because everyone has found that groove and they're so predictable. It's just insane. But yeah, that's one of the things I had to tell you about I don't know how we got into talking about sound versus, why does it mean so much? Why did it mean so much to me? Perhaps why it's not something that means a lot to the average business owner.
Hmm.
And it comes down to people not feeling that makes them money, and it does. It's like a bad sound is like walking into a place that smells like garbage. it's it's one of the senses. And you want to know something? I'll peacock on this one right now. You never walked out of any of my clubs with your ears ringing. Never. Ever.
I could attest to that. And the sensory experience of every single time, like I said, I was a patron for many, many years. The sensory experience, the sound, the smell of the alcohol, not the poop in the bathroom, the light show, the lasers, everything was just always spot on at Soundgarden.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, I'm not gonna, I'll tell you one thing. I could have had better lighting application. I could have had better video application. Um, I was actually, when I had the place sold, which is another story for another time, when Raj was going to be rebranded, you were going to see um, a $250,000 video application that I was designing for the new place for the new owner.
Hmm.
It was going to be intense. Like the bars, the layout of that club remains solid for what the space is. You can't come up with a better layout.
I can't.
You know, I mean, one of the beautiful things about that is, you never had to walk through a dance floor to go to the bathroom.
No, you
Just
haven't.
think,
No.
just think about that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like spot on.
And if you notice the way I laid the room out, all right, the focal point is the stage and the dance floor. And wherever you were in that room, whether you were back by bar three had two levels. Bar one had two levels. When I put in the VIPs with the whole bottle service science, everything was tiered. So wherever you stood in that room, wherever you sat, you didn't feel claustrophobic. The sight lines were perfect, zoned in on the dance floor. You never had to walk through a crowded dance floor to go to the bathroom. You never had to walk through a crowded dance floor to go out and have a smoke. You know, the design was perfect. So when I had the place sold, the layout wasn't changing. All right. The bathrooms needed nothing. When this guy came in that was buying that place for me, when he's like, "Did you ever even use this bathroom?" I'm like, "No, yeah, you know." and but the video aspect that I was bringing into the space that I had designed was intense. I was creating, you know, the two bars, bar one and bar two.
Yep.
When you walk in, I was creating a two-sided Oculus
Mm.
that was going to be over each of those bars. You know those balls that we have with all the LED lighting. Well,
Mm.
there was going to be a two-sided Oculus, and there was going to, you know, the stage was going to have an LED light show. And you know, we were going to present bands, and of course, track shows and DJs and stuff. But you know, that stage was going to be every bit of going to a Bon Jovi AC/DC concert at MetLife, and the whole perimeter of the club. All right, and the two poles behind those two bars to aggregate everything around the whole room,
Yeah.
crawl up the bars around the Oculus over the bars. The design I had was sick. He was spending $250,000 just on video.
Wow.
He didn't need anything on sound.
No, it was already.
The only upgrade that the sound needed was I had two Crown digital EQs. They were going. They needed to be changed, and they're not cheap. They're like $10,000 a piece.
Yeah, totally.
So, but that was that. But yeah, I mean, you know, so
Wow.
Twilo, all these other clubs in the city with, you know,
Yeah.
Red Zone, and you know, everyone shaking the walls everywhere. That's good. And listen, I'm not saying that there's not good audio out there, but
Hmm.
you know, again with Carnaccio, I didn't just stop. I knew he would be able to EQ a room so it's soft and it's articulate, and you know, a lot of people have a different opinion to analog versus digital. Analog has more of a chance of being a lot warmer
Yeah, warmer
and a
sound.
lot lower end, where digital could be more high frequency and stuff like that. Um, I understood Mike's ear, and he understood my ear on what I wanted to achieve. But no matter how great the sound is, and your engineer, you need padding. You need this shit,
Or
you
elect.
know.
Yeah.
And I would tell people when they would come in and see my room, I'm like, I would clap my hands. I'm like, you hear how dead that is? You know, and if you talk to anyone, we could be playing at 133 dB, and you could be on the dance floor having a conversation with someone that you're dancing with.
Hmm.
You think because of your experience elsewhere that you got to scream, but your voice is just as powerful as that speaker that's playing music.
Absolutely. If
And then if you're at the bar, again, once you came there and got used to it, it's like getting used to my meatballs.
or your mozzarella.
And yeah, yeah, and knowing what to expect.
Hmm.
You understand?
Absolutely.
Once you were there, you kind of, you got used to it.
Mhm.
But you could sit by the bar and talk to someone by the bar,
And not
and
raise your voice.
yeah, your pants are shaking, your body's moving, shit's rumbling, but you're able, because that's where the drapery and the acoustics come in.
Hmm.
So
Mark of a
so
great.
and you know what? I'm anal about that, and that's what I do, and there are other people that have done that too. It's not just me, and they're out there, but you know,
Yeah.
good stuff,
Absolutely.
dude. We're hitting the 11 o'clock hour.
Yeah. You know what?
Um,
I think we could keep going, but we got to save some for next time, I guess.
There's more. Listen, and like I said,
So
at the end
much.
of the day here, to everyone that's listening and everyone that's going to listen to this afterwards, you know, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy doing this for the fans. Has nothing to do with me. All right. This is for the fans. Like, you know, these places and my place was not a mistake. Um, this was a plan. It was executed. It was the playoffs every night that we opened. It was the Super Bowl every weekend, and you know, I needed to make sure everything was right. But there's just so much to talk about, you know, and I mean, and I really haven't even scratched the surface on Chicago, and there's more to Chicago. There's more to Temptations, and
There's
you
more
know,
Town Garden. There's more to everything.
yeah,
There's even
yeah,
the New York Minute.
yeah,
There's
yeah, and
the,
listen,
the so much
Rise,
that you broke on the radio just through your marketing. There's so much to
yeah.
talk about.
So we might have to go into another couple of phases with this, which is fine. And again, just so all your listeners that are dialed into this, I'm doing this to share the experience because guess what? All of our guests and all of the people that love the nightlife, whether you came to my club or once or twice and went to somewhere else more, whatever, there's a backstory here. You know, for the places that lasted a long time that weren't amateur, you had to be on top of your shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not, and you know, you know, it's just as important as going to a concert. You know, a concert is just you know, putting a concert on at Madison Square Garden. You know, yeah, there's moving parts, but there's just as many moving parts in a nightclub.
Yeah. It's an
You know,
operation,
it
operational
is,
excellence, and that's
it
how
is,
you always operated yourself, sir.
yeah. So,
Hey, my man.
but
I think we need.
we're gonna come back, and I can't thank I can't thank Ace for coming on. I don't know if he was on the last one,
Yeah, he
but
was.
like guys like I need to really because listen, I can't always and I don't want you to think I'm getting sick or anything, but I really need people like Dave Mendez, Ace. I need people like Stevie Zaccone,
Hmm.
Otto. All right. I would love to get Franco to come on.
Yeah.
All right. It's like Franco, where the hell are you?
Mhm.
Um, you know, I love having like guys like even Denny. You know, I'd love to get Denny to come in. I don't know if he's listening. You know, because you know me and Denny hit it off. You know, he's like a son to me too. You know, Louis DeVito. You
Yeah.
know, guys like Johnny Buds, guys like DJ Surge. You know, from Westchester.
Yeah.
You know, these are
Third-
people that I have. You know, I have. You know, that I've had so many in-depth conversations with that will enhance these interviews with stories. You know, I mean, you know, because they were all a part of either the discussion or these, you know, inspiring freaking definitive moments that just doesn't leave you.
Amen.
You know,
Forever
it's
in
a
our heart.
special, yeah, it's a special time. And like I said in the opening thing last week, you know, we're going through rough times now. Look, they closed the goddamn state down with the schools and everything, and now that you know they're making it really really difficult, and you know, but guess what, man? There's good news on the horizon. And, you know, we got 2 vaccines. We'll probably have another 2 by the end of next week. You know, not going to get political. That's another story for another time. But guess, which I'll never do. I don't want to get political.
Yes.
But, you know, this thing will pass. And, you know, the only problem is, I mean, and I don't like really getting into that discussion either because, you know, nightlife was not healthy before COVID. And you know that.
Yeah. We
And a
definitely
lot of,
about that on the side for sure.
yeah, you know, and I really, I'm not, you know, I'll have that discussion with people one on one. I don't know if I want to have that discussion in an open forum because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that. But you know, this, you know, I'm going to scratch the surface on it with you, at another time.
I think it's definitely something we should talk about at one of the maybe not part 3, maybe not the next time, but on another topic that needs to be.
Yeah, maybe give it a title like why, why did it change?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, man, just like I told you the story about the smoking and how that really changed a lot of shit.
Yeah.
If you thought that opened your pores,
Yeah. I know what we could get into right now, but we won't do that.
and again, it's just, so,
Yeah.
but listen, man, I want to wish you and everybody that's tuning in and anyone that tunes in after to watch it later, happy Thanksgiving.
For sure. Absolutely.
This 10-person rule at a house, I don't know how the hell they're going to enforce that.
Who knows? I've been seeing some pretty funny memes. It's like, I see you bought a turkey that feeds 12. Open up the door with like a SWAT team trying to bang through the door.
Oh, God. I got to tell you, man, it's so funny listening to Facebook is funny. Instagram is funny. You got all these people putting these things up going, all right, so I got it all planned out. If the cops come, we're going to have 5 people in that room, another 5 people in that room, and 10 people in that room.
Yeah.
This way they can't say that we're ganging people up. And we're all going to have our masks on.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, big time.
Listen, all I can say is I love you, bro. This is awesome. I hope everybody is safe. This shit's real.
Yeah, it is real.
I have a very dear friend of mine. Him and his wife had this. They were beat up for a while. Another friends of mine that are like kind of messed up for like 11 days with 10 straight days of 102 fever, and the shit's real, man.
It is.
I talked to my friend Artie and Cindy, friends of mine from many, many years ago. Cindy works at the hospitals at the Valley and Hackensack. She's an administrator, and I text her every day. I'm like, "What's going on at the hospitals?" And she kind of lets me know, and it's real. But everyone's got to be a little vigilant here and just take care of themselves and look out for the older people, and that's it.
Yeah.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I'm going back to Jersey because I'm living here on Long Island. So I'm going to go back to Wayne, New Jersey, where my parents are.
Awesome.
Really excited. And while I'm out there, definitely get a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese because they don't got that stuff out here. But yeah, definitely got to head home for Jersey. How about yourself?
Do they call it pork roll in Long Island?
They call it pork roll, but not even everywhere has a pork roll out here.
Yeah, that's what they call it in South Jersey. I've been spending a lot of time with Joe Leone's, and it's like I just went out there the other day. Me and Joey had breakfast, and I'm like, could I get the Taylor ham, or do I have to say pork roll?
Uh-huh.
They're like, well, we know what it is. All right, thanks. But,
all right, huge. Have yourself an amazing evening.
You too, buddy.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in tonight. A marathon podcast interview, however you want to call it. Eugene, thank you so much for spending time with me. Chillin with Mendez. It's going to be fantastic. As you already heard tonight, we got Jason Ojeda is going to be a future guest, confirmed. We got Louis DeVito, another future guest, that's confirmed. So a lot of great things. We're going to take a break next week. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll be back the following week. Let's see. The following week is going to be Soundgarden Saturdays into Rise with a little sprinkles of the New York Minute because there's a lot of good stuff there. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Ace, Mr. Mendez, Mark, DJ Riddler, Dave Bondo, Jersey Joel. Who else tuned in that I'm missing? Vic Latino. Man, so many people tuned in tonight. Thank you guys so very much. Have an amazing evening. Happy Thanksgiving. And peace out.